Chapter 1689. This was why Yu Yao was reacting like this. Earth class was too far away from him, since it was something that only existed in legends. It was too far away from the noble houses, and Mystic Late Phase Peak was the highest level that he could see and touch. Wondrous Book Room. Yeah, Mystic Late Phase Peak, that's already the top of the common world's noble houses. Ling Shan was surprised as well. Lin Yi's words meant that she could reach Mystic Late Phase Peak as well. Aren't your goals a little too low? Above the noble houses, there's the hidden noble houses, and above them are the ancient sects and ancient noble houses. As for what's above the ancient level, we don't know yet, but there's definitely a higher level above Sky Class. Don't you guys want to pursue a higher level of martial arts? Lin Yi smiled bitterly. This Ice Palace test had broadened Lin Yi's horizons a lot. In the past, Lin Yi had thought that he'd work hard to break through to Sky Class, but he'd never been this close to Sky Class before. When he saw Crystal Candy, Qing, and Elder Tang, Lin Yi realized that Sky Class wasn't that mysterious after all. Once upon a time, Mystic was Lin Yi's goal, because the highest level that Lin Yi could see was Mystic. Later on, Lin Yi broke through to Mystic, but Earth Class entered Lin Yi's sights, and now Lin Yi's goal was Earth Class. And when Lin Yi became an Earth Class, he realized that Sky Class wasn't that far away. At every stage, there was a goal, but if you didn't reach that level, you'd never be able to touch that level. It was like a frog in a well. If it didn't go out, it'd always think that the sky was only as big as the well, but once it went out, the world would be different. But Ling Shan and Yu Yao's reactions were understandable to Lin Yi. Their current level of contact was limited to the hidden noble houses. Only the hidden noble houses and normal sects had direct contact with the ancient levels. It was too far away for the noble houses. Above Sky Class. To be honest, Ling Shan never thought that she'd become a Sky Class one day. Ling Shan's dream and goal was Mystic Early Phase. As long as she reached that level, she'd be able to buy time for her brother to grow up and secure their position as a noble house. But just the early phase of Mystic Class was still a dream, an unreachable dream. The people of noble houses only trained to protect their status. They never thought about chasing after the Sky Class like the hidden houses, chasing after immortality. But ever since she met Lin Yi, Ling Shan realized that she really was a frog in a well. The things she didn't even dare to think about were realized with Lin Yi's help, and she was about to become the strongest person in the noble house. Mystic Late Phase Peak. And that wasn't all. Lin Yi told her that she'd become a Sky Class one day. Ling Shan was very excited. She didn't think that she'd be this lucky, meeting such a strong man. It seemed like she had to work hard. She might be a little later than Tang Yun, Meng Yao, and Yu Shu, but she was at least one step ahead of Xiao Xiao, right? Now that Xiao Xiao was Lin Yi's small wife, she didn't even have the title of a maid. Ling Shan felt that her next goal was to get a title, even if it was a lowly maid. As long as she could follow Lin Yi for the rest of her life, then Sky Class wouldn't be a dream anymore. With that thought, Ling Shan's eyes on Lin Yi heated up once more. She'd always looked up to strength since she was young. Otherwise, she wouldn't have set a goal that her future husband had to be stronger than her. Now, her goals seemed to have been achieved, and Lin Yi wasn't just a normal strong. He was stronger than she'd imagined. And so, after confirming that she liked Lin Yi, she lowered her standards, and the mists of house songs started to compromise. Being able to stay by Lin Yi's side was already good enough, and she didn't want Lin Yi to only have one woman by his side. There's an old saying that goes, when you're in the martial arts world, you can't do what you want. Lin Yi sighed, thinking about it. That's indeed the case. Unless you find a place to live in seclusion, you'll have to keep chasing after higher realms of martial arts, because your enemies are growing as well. If you don't move forward, what awaits you is death. You're right. Yu Yao nodded, but Sky Class? I never thought about it in the past. My goal was actually to surpass Lil Sis Ling Shan, and that would be the end of the world. But looking at me now, how childish was I? Even if I'm the same level as Ling Shan now, I don't have any other thoughts, because my strength isn't from my own training, but from a man Lil Sis Ling Shan likes. What right do I have to chase after her? So, after thinking it through, I realized that I should find the love that truly belongs to me, and not the obsession and fantasy I had when I was young. Lin Yi didn't know how to respond to Yu Yao's words, so he only smiled. Right, Lin Yi, I'll call you boss from now onwards. Wu Qintian calls you boss so smoothly, it's a little disrespectful for me to call you by your name. Yu Yao had wanted to say this a long time ago. Putting aside the fact that you were my instructor, now that you've helped me so much, you should be my boss. What about Shu if you call me boss? Isn't that messing up the seniority? Lin Yi smiled bitterly. He knew that Yu Yao would bring this up eventually. To this, Lin Yi didn't reject it. Lin Yi wasn't one to follow rules and be humble, so when Qintian, Qikuan, and Yu Bing called him boss, he agreed. But when it came to Yu Yao, because of Yu Shu, Lin Yi still treated him like a big brother. Shu, let's wait until she marries you first. Yu Yao smiled bitterly. It's not confirmed yet. Ahem. Yu Yao, what do you mean? Why are you giving your sister to Lin Yi? I didn't agree. So you're messing with me on purpose, aren't you? Ling Shan glared at Yu Yao. Haha, it's just a joke. Yu Yao smiled. All right, call me whatever you want. It's just a name. I'll raise you guys to Mystic Late Phase Peak, and with Wu Qintian, we'll go to the Noble House meeting and get justice. It's time for House Yu to pay back their blood debt. Lin Yi smiled coldly at the thought of Armadillo. To be continued, but in a fulfill slot. Chapter 1690. It didn't matter what role House you played in the Armadillo incident. Lin Yi wouldn't let them go. Even with the hidden House Yu's protection, Lin Yi was going to get justice. Lin Yi was a man who would protect his own people. The only ones who could come out unscathed after hurting him were House Yu. Wondrous book Rune Lin Yi's words made Ling Shan and Yu Yao's hearts tighten. It seemed like being friends with Lin Yi was the luckiest thing that had happened to them in their lifetimes. Lin Yi was famous for his loyalty to his friends and women. Ling Shan, sis, you go first. Ladies first. Yu Yao smiled. This time, it was different from breaking through to Mystic. It was just a test, so as a man, Yu Yao naturally went to the front. This time, however, there was a 100% chance of reaching Mystic Late Phase Peak, and so Yu Yao gave this chance to Ling Shan, letting her enjoy the pleasure of reaching Mystic Late Phase Peak first. I've already surpassed you once in my life, and I'm satisfied. Yu Yao was talking about the time in the tomb when Lin Yi first raised him to Mystic Early Phase. In this life, he'd surpassed Ling Shan in that instant, and that was enough for him to let go of his grudge. Then I won't hold back. Ling Shan sat in front of Lin Yi and extended her hand to Lin Yi. Everyone was familiar with this, so Lin Yi didn't need to say much. Ling Shan was already prepared. Lin Yi didn't say much and started channeling his art of dragon mastery, sending qi into Ling Shan's body. Ling Shan frowned slightly, unable to take this amount of qi, but she gritted her teeth and persevered. There weren't many chances to level up like this. Other practitioners wouldn't even be able to level up like this, so Ling Shan didn't think that it was a big deal. Ling Shan reached Mystic Late Phase Peak without any suspense, and after her was Yu Yao. The next morning, Yu Yao also broke through to Mystic Late Phase Peak. Why do I feel like I'm dreaming? Yu Yao stood up and stretched his arms. It feels completely different. Mystic Early Phase and Mystic Late Phase Peak are worlds apart. Once you break through to Earth Class, you'll realize that everything will be different. Lin Yi said, Boss, I noticed that you didn't seem to be affected at all after we increased our strength. You're still full of energy. Isn't it a little too amazing? Chen Yao was very surprised to see the energetic Lin Yi. One had to know how much qi was needed to level up 2 Mystic Early Phase practitioners to Mystic Late Phase Peak. It could be said that even if Lin Yi used up all his qi, it still wouldn't be enough. But Lin Yi did it, and his strength didn't seem to be affected at all. Yu Yao, bro, let's just talk about this in private. Don't let anyone else know about it, or it'll cause a lot of trouble for Lin Yi. Ling Shan reminded Yu Yao with a serious face. I understand. Qin Yao nodded solemnly and said, This is only a private conversation. How did I improve my strength? Even if you beat me to death, I won't say it. It's not that serious. If I really wanted to kill you, you'd better tell me. Lin Yi said, Remember this, no matter when, life is the most important. As long as there's life, there's hope. there'll always be a chance for revenge. A real man knows when to yield and when to stand tall. A moment of bravery is just an ordinary man's bravery. Yu Yao was amused by Lin Yi's words. Of course, it doesn't matter if he's crippled. I can heal him. Lin Yi smiled. All right, you guys get ready. I'll go back and level up Wu Qingyao as well. We need to be there before the noble house meeting. Okay, let's get ready. Yu Yao nodded. Speaking of which, I can't hold it in anymore. I want to kill that phone right now. If it wasn't for boss, I'd be crippled for life. As they were talking, Ling Shan's phone rang. She was afraid that it would affect Lin Yi's leveling up, so she turned it off. Not long after, a call came in. It was still early in the morning, and she didn't know what it was. Ling Shan frowned when she saw the caller ID. It was Elder Song Xiangwen, who was at home. Hello, Grandpa, what's up? Ling Shan didn't have a choice. She had no choice but to pick up the phone. She couldn't leak the fact that she was going to take revenge on Yu phone. Otherwise, it'd be troublesome if House Yu got help from the hidden House Yu. She had to do something unexpected to achieve the effect she wanted, and so she kept brushing Elder Song off. What's up? What are you talking about? The noble house meeting is about to start. Are you coming back or not? Why don't you tell me? After you level up, does that mean I won't be your grandpa anymore? One couldn't blame Xiangwen for being angry. Hao Song was in an awkward position right now, and House Yu was forcing their way in. Not only did they ask Old Song if he still wanted the marriage, but they also asked Old Chun if there was anything going on between Ling Shan and Chun Yu Yao, turning House Chun from the victim to the one in the wrong. Of course, in a noble house, the one with the strongest fist was the one with the right. Facing House Yu, who had a strong backing, House Song and House Chun didn't dare say anything, but they knew that in this meeting, young Master Gu would be the one to suffer the most. Grandpa, I'll definitely go to the noble house meeting and give you an explanation, but right now I really can't go back, Ling Shan said as she looked at Yu Yao and Lin Yi. Then what's your decision on the marriage with Yu Feng? Do you agree or not? Elder Song said sternly. Grandpa, didn't I tell you already? I already have someone I like. I won't marry Yu Feng. Ling Shan said firmly as she looked at Lin Yi, blushing. You child, how can you be so stubborn? Do you know what kind of consequences this decision of yours will bring to our Song family? Elder Song was pissed. House Yu's already hinted to me that if you marry Yu Feng, they'll let bygones be bygones. Of course, that's under the condition that you're still a virgin, or there'll be no way to resolve this. Oh, then I wouldn't be a virgin a long time ago, Ling Shan said. I've already met the person I like. To be continued. Phil Slot. Chapter 1691. Chapter 1692. Bad news. Ling Shan thought that she wasn't lying. She and Lin Yi had met before, but that was under special circumstances. Actually, nothing had happened between the two. Elder Song was seething with anger. Are you telling the truth? Are you trying to kill our Song family? Why can't you think about the bigger picture? I've been supporting House Song for so many years, and now it's all gone. Grandpa, I don't think I've done anything wrong, Ling Shan argued. First of all, you didn't ask for my permission to get engaged, and I really don't like Yu Feng. Even if I didn't have someone I liked, I wouldn't marry him. Yu Qian is my friend, my big brother. He got injured by Yu Feng, and I'm still marrying him. Aren't you trying to frame me? Old Song went silent after hearing Ling Shan's words. Ling Shan's words weren't unreasonable, and Xiangwen wasn't an old fool either. But things had come to this, and there was no turning back. If Ling Shan didn't marry Yu Feng, there would be no turning back. House Yu would definitely cause trouble for them in this noble house meeting. Grandpa, actually, if that's the case, we can work with House Chun to fight against House Yu. We might still have a chance. Ling Shan hinted. She couldn't say anything else. House Chun, how are we supposed to work together? House Chun only has Chun Yutian, and he's already a cripple. Xiangwen sighed. This time, House Chun can't even take care of themselves. It's useless to ally with him. Don't think that he can escape this disaster just because he has a marriage contract with an ancient sect. We don't even know if that marriage contract is valid or not. Xiangwen sighed. Perhaps. Maybe House Chun has other allies? Ling Shan said, forcing herself to continue hinting. Other allies? With House Chin's current strength, How could they have other allies? Xiangwen paused, not understanding what his granddaughter was saying. Shan, why do I feel like there's more to your words? It's nothing much. I just feel that everything has its own will. Maybe things will turn around? Ling Shan said. All right, Grandpa. Let's talk later. I need to work here. There's a lot of stuff going on. Song Xiangwen sighed helplessly. It looked like the Song family was definitely going to be removed from the list of aristocratic families. Ling Shan shrugged after hanging up. Can't help it. I guess I'll have to hide this from Grandpa for now. Aren't I the same? Now my grandpa has lost all hope. He's waiting for House Yu's trouble during the meeting of the noble houses. Yu Qian sighed and clenched his fist. House Yu Feng, just you wait. I'll wash away this humiliation. Don't worry, you will. Lin Yi patted Yu Qian's shoulder. I'll leave first. All right, there's something I forgot to tell you guys. It's bad news. Do you guys want to hear it? Bad news? What's the bad news? Yu Qian and Ling Shan asked, shocked. I want to tell you guys after the meeting, but I didn't want you guys to waste your energy on useless stuff, so I decided to tell you guys now. Lin, he said. What bad news is it? Ling Shan asked. Something to do with the noble house meeting? That's not right. You said you could tell us after the meeting. The bad news is that you guys can't train on your own anymore. Lin, he said regretfully. Can't train on our own. Ling Shan paused before remembering something. You're saying that there's no use in training on our own, right? That's right, that's it. Lin, he nodded. The energy I've transferred into your bodies is too pure, and it's causing you to reject the energy in the natural world. So, the energy in the natural world has no effect on you. Even if you continue to train, it'll be useless unless you go to a place where the energy is abnormally abundant. But it's hard to find a place like that. No wonder, so that's why. Ling Shan said, enlightened. I told you before that my training doesn't seem to make any progress at all. So that's why. Yes, you said it last time, and I didn't pay much attention to it, but I found out later. Linny said, from now on, you'll have to wait for me to level up before I help you guys level up, or I'll make pills for you after I learn alchemy. Alchemy? You want to learn alchemy? Ling Shan and Yu Qian paused at the same time. They hadn't interacted with alchemists before, but they were from noble houses, after all. They knew that alchemists were an extremely noble profession, and it was very rare. And Lin, he wanted to learn alchemy? I just have the intention, but I haven't succeeded yet. Lin, he smiled. Ling Shan and Yu Qian couldn't help but admire Lin Yi. He really had the guts to dream. Lin Yi was already strong enough right now. And if he became a refiner, wouldn't all the ancient sects have to suck up to Lin Yi? They heard that alchemists were very popular, even in the ancient sects. If Lin Yi really became an elixir refiner, then the Hidden Houses crisis would be easily solved. He believed that at that time, there would be many ancient sects willing to stand up for Lin Yi, begging him to make elixirs for them. It doesn't matter if we train or not. We'll train for a few years on our own, and it won't be as much as what you've done in a short amount of time. So the drawback you mentioned isn't really a drawback to us. Yu Qian smiled. Boss, we'll be relying on you for the rest of our lives. Yeah, this saved me a lot of trouble. I'll just sit back and enjoy the fruits of your labor. Ling Shan said, my dream is to find a strong man to protect me. And now that I've found one, I don't need to train anymore. Huh, I'll go back first. See you later. Lin Yi didn't reply to Ling Shan and quickly walked out of the room. Old Wu of House Wu, Wu Gonggao, was in the same bad mood as Song Xianwen. But the reason for Gonggao's bad mood was different from the two of them. Chen Tian was heavily injured because of Lin Yi's woman. After calling him once, there was no more news, and Gonggao didn't dare call to ask. Chapter 1692. He was afraid that Chen Tian would take things too hard, so he resisted the urge to ask about his injury. He planned to let Chen Tian calm down and think things through before returning to the house. However, the noble house meeting was about to start, and no matter what, Gonggao had to give his grandson Wu Chintian a call. In the past noble house meetings, Gonggao had always brought his grandson Wu Chintian along. Chintian was his pride back then, and he was one of the stronger ones among the younger generation. No pop-up window, but this year, he could only bring Chintian along. He was afraid that Chintian would feel uncomfortable, so he wanted to bring Chun Tian along as well. Gong Gao had high hopes for Chun Tian, but Chun Tian, on the other hand, wasn't very fond of him. Even with Chun Tian's injury, Chun Tian still wasn't favored. He was just valued a little more by Gong Gao, but he wasn't like Chun Tian, who could spend a lot of money. His pocket money was still pitifully small. Of course, there was a reason why Gong Gao didn't like Chun Tian. Before leaving for the noble house meeting, Gong Gao called Chun Tian's phone. Grandpa. Chun Tian didn't expect his grandpa to call at this time. He'd been afraid that his grandpa would call to ask about his injury, and he really couldn't talk to him about it. He told him to keep it secret, so he could only keep it a secret, even in front of his grandpa. But his grandpa didn't call after that, and Chun Tian breathed a sigh of relief. What he didn't expect was that this call would come right before the noble house meeting. And so Chun Tian asked carefully, "Grandpa, what's up?" "Chun Tian, how have you been lately? Are you all right?" Gong Gao's heart ached when he heard Chun Tian's careful voice. He thought that Chun Tian had lost his strength and was afraid of losing his love for him. "Chun Tian, you're a physical practitioner, so don't be discouraged. It's okay if your meridians are injured. As long as your hands aren't injured, you can still use House Wu's Iron Fist arts. As for your meridians, I'll get someone to ask for a meridian unblocking pill for you, Grandpa." Chun Tian didn't expect his grandpa to say that, and his heart ached even more. He wanted to tell Gong Gao that he was fine, that he had recovered, that he was a mystic early phase, and that he was about to reach mystic late phase peak. However, his rationality prevented him from doing so. He knew that if he didn't say it now, his grandfather would only be sad for a short period of time. But if he said it, it would affect Lin Yi's important matters. "All right, Chun Tian, don't be sad, don't be discouraged. The noble house meeting is about to begin. Do you want to go with me?" Wu Gongao asked. Chun Tian didn't know how to answer. "It's fine. I'll bring Wu Chinny with me this time. Why don't you come too? With Grandpa here, no one will laugh at you." Gong Gao said, "No matter what, I'm still a mystic mid-phase, and I'm one of the top of the noble houses." "Thank you, Grandpa, but I won't be going for now." Chun Tian could only say that. "All right, don't think too much, and don't feel pressured," Gong Gao said. "Then I'll hang up first. Rest well." "All right, but Grandpa, don't worry, I won't let you down. I'll be your pride, and remember my words. I'll do what I say." Chun Tian couldn't say too much, so he could only hint. "Haha, I'll remember that. I'll wait for that day to come." Gong Gao smiled. It seemed like Chun Tian's attitude was quite good, and this made him feel at ease. He was afraid that Chun Tian wouldn't be able to hold on and do something extreme, but now he seemed to have regained his confidence. After hanging up, Chun Tian let out a breath of relief and looked at Lenny. "Boss, come. I want to level up. I want strength. I'll shine in this noble house meeting, and let House Wu become one of the top noble houses. Come." Lin Yi smiled and put his hand on Chun Tian's meridians, channeling the art of dragon mastery. Chun Tian, on the other hand, quickly started channeling his own practitioner's arts as well. These few days, Sun Jingyi wasn't having a good time either. After Hao Sun found out about Chun Tian's injury, naturally, he didn't want to marry Sun Jingyi to Chun Tian anymore. The old head of Hao Sun had mentioned this to Gong Gao, and although Gong Gao was angry, he didn't say anything. He knew that marrying Sun Jingyi to a cripple like Chun Tian was making things difficult for him, and he seemed to have heard from Chun Tian that Sun Jingyi had an ambiguous relationship with his boss, Lin Yi, so Gong Gao didn't mind it too much. At this time, even if he couldn't marry Hao Sun, it wasn't a good idea to make an enemy out of them. Gong Gao's compromise made the old head of Hao Sun a little embarrassed, and he agreed to help Gong Gao during the meeting. As a result, Gong Gao felt that this was a good deal. He didn't mention this to Chun Tian at all, because Chun Tian had already said that he gave up on pursuing Sun Jingyi. What was the point of bringing this up? And so, Gong Gao got a great deal for free. Although Gong Gao wasn't in a good mood about Chun Tian's injury, he was able to keep his cool during the meeting. At first, when Hao Sun told Sun Jingyi about the cancellation of the marriage with Chun Tian, Sun Jingyi wasn't happy. After all, Chun Tian had already given up on her and became Lin Yi's follower, so Sun Jingyi didn't care about the marriage at all. Of course, This wasn't the main problem. The main problem was that House Sun wanted to marry Sun Jingyi off to another noble house for the benefit of House Sun. Jingyi, I've already signed up a spot for you in this year's aristocratic clan meeting. Come with me to the aristocratic clan meeting. See if there are any young talents there, and I'll help you find a husband. It was the old head of House Sunday. This time, in order to get Sun Jingyi to return to House Sun, he called personally. Grandpa, I've already told my family that I have a boyfriend, someone I like. I want to live my own life. Please don't force me anymore. I don't care about wealth. I just want to live a peaceful life. Sun Jingyi hesitated and refused. I don't want to be a sacrifice for the marriage. Chapter 1693. Bulsh asterisk T. You're a member of House Sun. How can your marriage be decided so casually? Besides, who said that you're a sacrifice? You're a practitioner of the first stage of House Sun's art. Do you know how important your strength is? You're the target of all the big houses. As long as you agree, you can become the young mistress of House Yu. Elder Sun panicked after hearing Sun Jingyi's words. No pop-up window. I don't want to be the young mistress. I just want to live a peaceful life. What's so good about a noble house? Didn't my parents die because of sex in noble houses? Sun Jingyi wasn't interested in her grandfather's suggestion. I just want to be a normal person, and I've proven to you that I have the ability to support myself. I have my own company, my own business, in a place without the influence of my family. Cough. You're trying to piss me off. Elder Sun started coughing violently after hearing Sun Jingyi's words. Grandpa, what's wrong? Sun Jingyi was shocked and asked hesitantly. Jingyi, tell me the truth. I think I'm at the end of my lifespan, and I don't have many years left. Elder Sun sighed, his words filled with helplessness. So, there are some things that I have to make arrangements in advance. Otherwise, House Sun will be in danger. What? Grandpa, your body? Weren't you still very healthy the last time I saw you? Sun Jingyi hated her uncle's family. Her uncle was the one who suggested the marriage with House Wu, and her grandfather didn't force Sun Jingyi. So, although Sun Jingyi didn't like House Sun, she still had some feelings for her grandfather. When she was young, only her younger brother, Sun Yikai, and elder Sun treated Sun Jingyi well. The others thought that Sun Jingyi was an outsider, not a part of House Sunday. The last time you saw Grandpa was 2 years ago, right? Old Man Sun said with a bitter smile. Sun Jingyi's heart suddenly ached. Jingyi, I've never forced you to get married. You should know that when the Wu family came to propose, I just told you to get along. I didn't promise anything. Old Man Sun said, among the children of the third generation, although I won't say it, I actually dote on you the most. When you were young, you should know that when your older brother, you, and your younger brother got into trouble, I scolded them, I know, Sun Jingyi said quietly. However, you have to know that you are a child of the Sun family. This is an unchangeable fact. As for your marriage, I can give you a certain amount, but it must be an appropriate match. Old Man Sun said, the marriage between the aristocratic families is something that every family does. This can't be changed. Think about it. If you marry a man of humble origin, how can you go back to the Sun family in the future? How can you face the other aristocratic families in the future? My boyfriend is actually very powerful. Although he's not from an aristocratic family, he's still a swordsman. Sun Jingyi listened to her grandfather's words and had no choice but to use Lin Yi as a shield. No matter how powerful a swordsman is, it's useless without the support of a family. You're talking about a rogue cultivator, right? Old Man Sun said. Actually, you can say that I'm overbearing or unreasonable, but I will never agree to you marrying a swordsman without any power. This is not only related to the future of the Sun family, but it's also related to your own happiness. My own happiness. I know. Besides, he's really powerful. Sun Jingyi argued. No matter how powerful he is, how powerful can he be? Could it be that he's a mystic class master? Old Man Sun asked back. You have to know that only when a rogue cultivator reaches mystic class can they barely gain the respect of the aristocratic families. However, in the eyes of the hidden houses, they're just some thugs and lackeys. Their status is far lower than the aristocratic families. So, Jingyi, just treat this as my last request before I die. I won't ask you to marry into House Yu, but you should at least marry someone from one of the aristocratic families, right? Grandpa, I think he's a mystic class master, Sun Jingyi said helplessly. Besides, he seems to be very skilled in medicine. Can you let him take a look at your illness? Oh, mystic class? Old man Sun paused. He was just saying it casually, but he didn't expect that Sun Jingyi's boyfriend was actually a mystic class master. Although a rogue cultivator of mystic class wasn't as important as a golden class master in the eyes of the hidden houses, but a mystic class master was a very powerful existence in the eyes of the aristocratic families. Old man Sun thought even further. If Sun Jingyi's boyfriend was really a mystic class master, then if he agreed to marry into House Sun, then House Sun would gain a mystic class master out of thin air. This meant a lot to House Sun. House Sun was a family that focused on healing, so they didn't have any combat masters in the family. It was a good thing to have a combat master. This would bring more benefits than marriage with other families. Yes, he's a mystic class master. Sun Jingyi bit the bullet and said. She was talking about Lin Yi, but Lin Yi actually had nothing to do with her. If that's the case, then I'll give you a chance. Bring him back to House Sunday. If what you said is true, then let him attend the meeting of the aristocratic families with us. Having a mystic class master is also a good chance for House Sun to show our face. Old man Sun said, of course, the premise is that he must agree to marry into House Sun, huh? Old man Sun's first condition was enough to put Sun Jingyi in a difficult position. Bring Linny home, and to attend the meeting of the aristocratic families? Would Linny agree? Now, she wanted Lin Yi to marry into House Sun Jingyi's family. She might as well just kill Jingyi and be done with it. What? You're not making it up, are you? Old man Sun heard Sun Jingyi's puzzled voice and frowned. That's not it. It's fine to meet him. But can it wait? I don't want to make our relationship public for the time being. Besides, he won't agree to marry into House Sun Jingyi's family. After all, he's also a mystic class master. Sun Jingyi said with a bitter face. I've already given you the chance. This is my bottom line. Old man Sun said, if he joins our House Sun, then our House Sun will increase in strength. Then I can still accept it. But if he only marries you, then you'll belong to him. It's better to find a big family to marry into. Biden or Phil Slot. Chapter 1694. I'll try. Sun Jingyi said helplessly. I'll ask him first. Okay, I'll wait for your news. But if he doesn't agree, or if he's not a mystic class master, then please forget about it. Elder Sun said, Jingyi, you should know that if I leave, House Sun won't have a good life. I understand. Sun Jingyi sighed. Can't no pop-up window, I'll wait for your news, Elder Sun said. Then, Grandpa, please take care of yourself. Sun Jingyi suddenly remembered some of her childhood memories. Although her grandpa was a domineering and strict person, although he was a bit of a male chauvinist, he was really good to her. Don't worry, although my body isn't good, I can still hold on for a year or two and watch you guys get married. Elder Sun said. Although her grandpa asking her to marry someone else seemed a bit unreasonable, he gave her choice. It was much better than those parents who directly decided their children's marriage. But how was Sun Jingyi going to ask Lin Yi? Pretending to be a boyfriend was fine for Wu Qintian, but if she lied to her grandpa, would he be able to see through it? Sun Jingyi was very conflicted. She had no choice but to call Lin Yi. Hello. Not long after Lin Yi helped Qintian increase his strength, Sun Jingyi called. Lin Yi smiled and picked up. Looking for the great thief? Lin Yi, I have something urgent to talk to you about. Can you come? Sun Jingyi smiled bitterly. She wasn't in the mood to joke around with Lin Yi. It was too sudden. If Lin Yi didn't agree to go back with her, what would she do? Now, Lin Yi didn't know why Sun Jingyi was looking for him so urgently, but he wanted to calm down and study martial arts. It seemed like he couldn't do that for now. Yes, now is that okay? Sun Jingyi said anxiously. It's really urgent. Okay, where are you? I'll be right there. Lin Yi and Sun Jingyi weren't too close, but they were closer than normal friends. It was only because Chan Tian became Lin Yi's follower and stopped harassing Sun Jingyi that Lin Yi and Sun Jingyi slowly drifted apart. It's noon. Let me treat you to lunch. We can talk while we eat. I know a Six Taste House. It's a new chain. I heard the food is good. Jingyi asked. It's behind Songshan's first school. You'll see it when you get here. It's a big sign. Okay, I'll go now, Lin Yi replied. Lin Yi put the martial arts book on the table and said goodbye to Meng Yao and Yushu before driving to the Six Taste House. At the entrance of the Six Taste House, Lin Yi saw Sun Jingyi's red Audi A4L. It seemed like Sun Jingyi had arrived before him. Lin Yi parked the car and walked into the Six Taste House. A waiter walked over. Sir, are you alone or do you have a reservation? Before this, did a lady with the surname Sun book a private room? Lin Yi didn't know if Sun Jingyi greeted the waiter or not. May I know your name, sir? The waiter didn't answer and asked with a smile. My surname is Lin, Lin Yi said. A lady Sun Jingyi booked a private room. Sir, please come with me. The waiter confirmed Lin Yi's identity before saying. Lin Yi nodded and felt that the service of this shop was not bad. The protection of the customers was also quite in place. He followed the waiter to the door of a private room. The waiter made a pleased gesture to Lin Yi and opened the door for Lin Yi. So fast. Sun Jingyi had just arrived, and she was a little surprised to see Lin Yi arrive so soon. You said it was urgent. How can I not be fast? Lin Yi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Why? You're not in a hurry anymore. No, but it's not that it's very urgent. Sun Jingyi was a little embarrassed. But it seems that the call of my lover is still very powerful. Lover? You still have the nerve to say that? When there's something, you treat me as a lover. When there's nothing, you don't even have a phone call. Lin Yi smiled. Moreover, I said that I'm a lover, but I didn't get any benefits at all. Until now, let alone a kiss, we didn't even hold hands. Isn't it a bit too sad? Okay, half a lover. It's just a fake, the kind of nominal. At most, if you make me fall in love with you, I can give you some benefits. Sun Jingyi looked at Lin Yi affectionately and blinked her eyes. Come on, I don't believe it. Don't lie to me. Benefits? Instead of wasting time with you, it's better to go home and hug Tang Yin. Lin Yi shrugged. He didn't fall for Sun Jingyi's temptation at all. I was fooled by you in the past. Do you expect me to be fooled again? In other words, the same trick doesn't work on practitioners. Right, what's your strength now? Sun Jingyi heard Lin Yi mention practitioners. She suddenly thought of something and quickly asked, Why? Why are you suddenly asking this? After hearing Sun Jingyi's words, Lin Yi became alert. It wasn't that Lin Yi didn't trust Sun Jingyi, but this was a critical time. The noble house meeting was about to begin. Lin Yi and the people around him had to be kept a secret. Otherwise, if House Yu found a hidden House Yu, it would be troublesome. And Sun Jingyi was from House Sunday. So, Lin Yi had to be careful. Although Lin Yi didn't have much contact with Sun Jingyi, his instincts told him that Sun Jingyi wouldn't harm him. He was afraid that Sun Jingyi would be used by other houses. After all, Wu Qintian and Sun Jingyi's relationship was well known. If someone wanted to find out about Wu Qintian, they might start from Sun Jingyi. Lin Yi had to be careful. Of course it's useful. Just tell me when I ask. Sun Jingyi didn't notice the change in Lin Yi's expression. She flipped through the menu and said, Isn't it the same as before? Don't you know? Lin Yi asked. Mystic? Middle phase? Jingyi wasn't too sure, since she didn't remember much of it. She was just surprised that Lin Yi was a practitioner as well, since Hao Sun's training was the unconventional type. Jingyi wasn't as sensitive to the difference in strength levels as other practitioners. And more or less, Lin Yi said ambiguously, Let's not talk about this. Why did you call me here? Chapter 1695. I heard that the dishes in the House of Six Tastes are all created by the owner himself, and it said that there aren't more than 6 seasons: soy sauce, vinegar, salt, sugar, MSG, and chili. But the taste is very good, Jingyi said as she introduced the place. This place wasn't here before. It's just a chain. I've been wanting to try it for a long time, but I never had the time. There were too many things to do at the company, Jingyi said as she introduced the place. You're the missive house son now. Why are you so tired? Linny said, how's the company? Right, Wu Qintian has a company that's dying. Do you want to take it over? Everything is ready. The only thing missing is a manager. Miss. Hee hee. Sun Jingyi's smile was sour, and she changed the topic. Wu Qintian's company? I can give it to him, but is he willing? Him? Didn't he start that company just to put on an act in front of you? Did he want to attract your attention? Now that he's my follower, he doesn't want to do anything to you. So naturally the company is in ruins. Linny said, it's Xiao family Xiao Wangba and Xiao Wangdao. Those two idiots, Wu Qintian doesn't care. That's good. Sun Jingyi heard that Qintian was taken in as a follower by Lin Yi, and her eyes flashed with surprise. Right, I wanted to ask you last time. Why did Qintian call you boss? Is it because you're stronger than him? No matter what, Qintian was still the young master of House Wu. Even if he was crippled, there was no need for him to call a freelancer Lenny boss, right? And it seemed that he did it before he was crippled. And the reason he was crippled was because he was protecting Lin Yi's woman? Sun Jingyi felt that this was a little suspicious. Qintian looked a little dumb, but he was an extremely arrogant person. If it wasn't for Lin Yi, he wouldn't have lowered himself to be Qintian's follower, and he wouldn't have protected Lin Yi's woman at the cost of being crippled. Of course, there's another reason. I helped him. Lin Yi didn't lie to Sun Jingyi. He did help Qintian level up. Although Lin Yi was familiar with Sun Jingyi, he still kept his guard up. Their relationship wasn't at the point where they could talk about anything. I see. Jingyi didn't ask much, since she had something important to tell him. She didn't really care about Qintian's situation. Can you pretend to be my boyfriend again? I've been pretending, haven't I? Lin Yi smiled bitterly. Then, can you come home with me? Sun Jingyi asked. What? Lin Yi's eyes widened, and he almost jumped up. Go home? With you. Qintian was crippled, and my grandpa used this reason to cancel the marriage with House Wu. But he still wanted me to marry a man from a noble house. But I told Grandpa that I already have a boyfriend, and he's also a practitioner, a mystic class master. Sun Jingyi briefly told Lin Yi about her conversation with her grandpa, so Grandpa wants to see you, and he wants you to be his son-in-law. Lin Yi spat out a mouthful of tea. Going home with Sun Jingyi was enough of a headache for Lin Yi, and now he wanted to be his son-in-law? What the hell? Ugh, I know this is very difficult for you, but I have no other choice. I'm helpless. Anyway, it's fake. You just have to suffer a little. Sun Jingyi looked at Lin Yi pitifully. I don't believe your expression. You're always fooling people. Lin Yi wiped his mouth and said, From the first time I saw you, you've been fooling me. All right, I'll tell you the truth. This will bring you some trouble, but I really don't have a choice. Jingyi smiled bitterly, a lonely expression on her face. I'm actually an anomaly in House Sun, an outsider. I changed my surname to Sun, but I've never truly assimilated into the Sun family. Grandpa sympathized with my background and treated me very well when I was young, but that made me a thorn in my uncle's side. The eldest son of the direct line of descent didn't get as much love from Grandpa as someone with an outsider surname like me, and so they wanted me to get married a long time ago, using me as a tool to benefit the family. Lin Yi had a rough understanding of Sun Jingyi's background, and seeing her true feelings, he couldn't help but sigh. Your background is very pitiful, but you don't have to pretend in front of me, because I see you as a friend. Yeah, actually I'm not pretending. Sun Jingyi said, I'm just used to it sometimes, but I can guarantee that what I told you today is the truth, and I'm not fooling you. Hee hee. Then, they want you to marry Wu Qintian? Now, they want you to marry someone else, so you use me as a shield? Lin Yi asked. That's it. Sun Jingyi nodded. Then have you ever thought that this isn't a long-term solution? What if it's exposed? I can't always be at your beck and call, right? Lin Yi said, and a son-in-law. Even if it's fake, how can I bear it? Whether it's a son-in-law or not, I don't think it's important. Sun Jingyi said, as long as you can make Grandpa approve of you, it's fine. Approve of me? I'm just afraid that after he approves of me, the fake will become real. Lin Yi thought more, because now that Lin Yi was an Earth-class master, if he really showed his strength in front of Grandpa's son, then even if he didn't become a son-in-law, Grandpa's son would probably be willing. But the key problem now was that the relationship between Lin Yi and Sun Jingyi was fake. It wasn't real. You still have confidence. Sun Jingyi smiled and suddenly remembered a very important thing. Right, my grandpa's body doesn't seem to be very good. Can you help him take a look? Yes, but after seeing it, I'm afraid that he will approve of me. What about the future? Have you ever thought about it? Lin Yi asked. The future? Naturally, we'll talk about the future. If it doesn't work, then I'll just marry you. Sun Jingyi smiled. You're tricking me again, Lin Yi said. No, I mean it, Sun Jingyi said. At least, compared to those I don't know, I'm familiar with you. Marrying you is better than marrying them. Then what about Tang Yun and Xiao Xiao? Lin Yi asked. I'll be the eldest, and they'll be the second? Sun Jingyi said. No matter what, I'm the eldest miss of House Sun. I can't be the second, right? Target equals _ blank. Chapter 1696. Ha ha. Lin Yi smiled. Maybe you won't say that now that you know Xiao Xiao's identity. Xiao Xiao's identity? Sun Jingyi paused. Her body is very special, and the sect master has taken a liking to her. She's going to be the next master of the Ice Palace. Lin Yi said. What? Jingyi jumped in fright. She'd heard of the Ice Palace before, and vaguely knew about the Ice Palace's trial, but that was too far away for the noble houses. The more distant it was, the more shocked she was. Feng Xiao Xiao was going to be the sect master of the ancient sect? Compared to that, her identity as the Miss of House Sun was a joke. Plus, Xiao Xiao isn't going to be the main wife. She's still the second wife. Lin Yi said. I was just joking. Sun Jingyi felt a little down, and an awkward smile appeared on her face. Plus, this news from Lin Yi was too much of a shock to her. Xiao Xiao was the future master of the Ice Palace? Keep this a secret. Don't tell anyone. Lin Yi wanted to test Sun Jingyi's character, so he told her something that didn't seem important at the moment. Xiao Xiao's matter didn't affect Lin Yi's plan at all, and even if it got out, the hidden house you would be even more worried. But this was something that Lin Yi didn't want to do unless he had to. After all, his own strength was the most important, and using the Ice Palace as an excuse was fine. It was fine to use it once or twice to save his life, but it wouldn't be that useful if it got out. Xiao Xiao was the future master of the Ice Palace, but that was the future. She wasn't the person right now. She was just a golden class early phase, and the future was full of variables. Who knew what it would be like? Moreover, Lin Yi was a person who didn't like to rely on others, especially a heaven stage girl. If Lin Yi always used her name to swindle people outside, then this girl would definitely laugh at him. Don't worry, I understand. I won't say it out loud. Jingyi nodded solemnly. But wouldn't it increase your reputation if I told people about this? Yeah, right. Lin Yi nodded. I don't want to rely on women. Lin Yi didn't explain too much. In fact, Lin Yi didn't mind relying on Xiao Xiao because she was Lin Yi's woman, but Rock Candy was different. Lin Yi didn't want to rely on her. Then, you've promised me? Sun Jingyi said, Grandpa said that he wants me to bring you to participate in the aristocratic clan assembly. I was just about to talk about that. I wanted to wait until after the aristocratic clan assembly. But since you're going too, then that's perfect. Perhaps you'll see me there. Lin Yi said, I'll go with someone else to the aristocratic clan assembly as well. Someone else? Wu Chintian? Sun Jingyi asked. And Lin Yi nodded. That's fine. Then we'll meet at the aristocratic clan assembly. Sun Jingyi breathed out in relief, as if a wish had been fulfilled. But you don't have to worry too much. As long as Grandpa's illness is cured, then I'll be at ease. When I leave House Sun, there won't be too much pressure. Oh, you're planning to leave House Sun? Lin Yi looked at Sun Jingyi's disappointed face and couldn't help but ask. He wasn't someone who liked to meddle in other people's business, but he liked to meddle in the business of his friends. And this time, if it wasn't for Grandpa saying that his body wasn't too good recently, and that he might not be able to hold on for long, I wouldn't have agreed to this. Sun Jingyi said sadly, Sigh, I haven't been back to House Sun for almost 2 years. Who will be in charge of House Sun in the future? Is it your brother's son Yi Kai, or your uncle's son? Lin Yi suddenly asked. And Sun Jingyi paused, not knowing why Lin would ask such a question, but she still said, "That's not for sure." Until now, Grandpa hasn't said anything about letting Uncle take over House Sun. "Then I understand," said Lenny faintly. "If Sunny Kai takes over House Sun, will you be happier and have less pressure?" He has a good relationship with me since we were young," said Sun Jingyi. "But I still want to leave House Sunday. After this matter is over, I want to go back to my hometown and see my parents' former residence. Although it's probably ruined, I still want to go and have a look. I understand. My impression of Sun Kai is also good." Lenny nodded. He already had a plan in his heart. If the Sun family's old man was sensible and let Sun Kai inherit House Sun, then in this family meeting, he would let House Sun keep its position. As for other families that weren't close to he would just let them get lost. "Do you have time at that time? Can you accompany me?" Sun Jingyi didn't know why she suddenly asked this question. She didn't mean anything else. She just felt a little lonely, especially when she was going far away. If there was a companion, it would be a lot more relaxing. She had almost no real friends except Lin. "Let's talk about it then." Lin saw Sun Jingyi's loneliness, so he didn't directly refuse. "Okay, that's a promise. You can't shirk it at that time." Sun Jingyi's eyes flashed a trace of slyness. "When did I promise?" He was stunned. "Then you didn't promise?" Sun Jingyi asked back. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "I'm afraid I won't have time. If I have time, I'll accompany you. Time's like it's just a squeeze." Jingyi said. "Then squeeze for me?" Lin's eyes unconsciously moved to Sun Jingyi's collar. "I don't need to squeeze, but if you want to see—" "Not now. I'll show you when you become an official lover." Sun Jingyi said. "Then I won't look. I have a big chest at home. I can look any time." Lin said. "Pervert." Sun Jingyi said. "Me? Pervert?" Lin pointed at his nose, not sure if he should laugh or cry. This was the first time someone called him a pervert. He didn't seem to be very perverted. After lunch, he returned to House Chu's villa. While Yuqian, Lingshan, and Chantian were getting ready, he started practicing the technique Faubert gave him. At the same time, the heads of the noble houses brought their disciples to Yanjing, where House Yu was, to attend the noble house meeting. Of course, the most active was House Kong. Chapter 1697. Dr. Kong had heard about what happened between House Song and House Chun. From what he could see, House Song might not be able to do much in this noble house meeting, but House Chun would definitely be removed from the list of noble houses. And so, Dr. Kong brought Kong Guifeng to Yanjing's House Yu as soon as he could, preparing to discuss the matter of becoming a noble house with House Yu. Becoming a member of a noble house had always been Dr. Kang's dream, and this was a chance for House Kong. Dr. Kong was determined to get it. In the reception hall of House Yu, Shueishing received Dr. Kong and Kong Guifeng. "This isn't the first time we've met, and I know why you two are here." Shueishing looked at Dr. Kong and Kong Guifeng, not beating around the bush. "But if you two want to become a noble house, shouldn't you show some sincerity? Naturally, we won't let House Yu help us for nothing. We, House Kong, will become the strongest supporter of House Yu in the future. Plus, our Dr. Kong Medical Group sales network will be given to House Yu after the agency contract expires." Kong Guifeng said. This was the chip he'd thought a long time ago, and it was the only chip House Kong could take out right now. "Isn't it a bit too little?" Shueishing said. "Mr. Kong, support is just empty words. As for the sales network, as far as I know, with Miracle Dr. Guan's company's competition, your company's sales have been declining. I don't think there's much profit to be made, right?" Kong Guifeng's face reddened. Indeed, what Shueishing said was Kong Guifeng's weakness, but House Kong didn't have many chips. With Miracle Dr. Guan's company's competition, House Kong was no longer the same as before. They didn't have money, and they didn't have good products. Even if House Kong became a noble house, they wouldn't have the advantage they had at the auction. Ahem. Dr. Kong was an old fox. He coughed and lowered his voice. "Since House Yu says so, then I'll give you a piece of news. But since House Kong wants to become a strong supporter of House Yu, then Mr. Yu, please don't betray us Oh, what is it? Shueishing's interest was piqued by Dr. Kang's mysterious words. Recently, House Kong has been researching the recipe for the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing, and I believe we'll have progress very soon. Once we succeed, then House Kang's position. I'm sure you understand. House Yu. Dr. Kong said, I can guarantee that all the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing made in the future will be given to House Yu first. What do you think of this bargaining chip, House Yu? So you're saying that it's not done yet? Shueishing was quite cool. He didn't let Dr. Kang's words get to his head. Naturally, it's not that difficult, but it takes a lot of effort. Dr. Kong didn't hide anything. House Yu, you should know that we're the ones asking you to work with us now. But once the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing is made, it'll be the other noble houses that come looking for us. Shueishing wasn't an idiot. He understood what Miracle Dr. Kong was saying, but this was a gamble. House Kong was researching the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing, but how confident they were and whether or not they'd succeed was still unknown. Of course, Shueishing understood that House Kong was more eager to research the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing than he was, and that the news wasn't necessarily made up. House Kong was currently under the influence of Miracle Dr. Guan's company and was in a slump. If they didn't have a hit product, they wouldn't be able to hold on for long, even if they became a noble house. This time, however, House Chin's removal from the noble house list was irreversible. Even if House Chun had a fake marriage with the ancient sect, it wouldn't stop Shueishing from making a move. Yu Feng had caused trouble this time, and House Yu would be in the wrong if they didn't get rid of him. It'd be better for them to just kill House Chun so that they wouldn't be able to rise again. As for House Song, Shueishing would have to see Xiangwen's attitude. If he was willing to marry Ling Shan to him, then he'd pretend that nothing had happened. If not, then House Song would be in danger. As for House Wu and House Liu, while House Wu had news of Wu Qintian being crippled and House Liu didn't have any practitioners, they were still related by marriage. Shueishing didn't want to touch them this time, in case he caused a backlash. Plus, with so many empty seats, it wouldn't be easy to replace them with other noble houses. If there were too many empty seats, the position of a noble house wouldn't be valuable anymore. Only by having one or two empty seats every time could the qualified houses fight for it, and it would also highlight the importance of House Yu. Looking at the current situation, House Kong seemed to be a suitable candidate, and they'd even made a friendly gesture. After a moment of contemplation, Shueishing nodded. All right, then I'll help House Kong become a noble house this time, but I'll have to warn you up front. If you don't have a worthy product for a long time, then House Kang's future will be a bit worrying. We understand that, of course. Dr. Kong nodded. We'll do our best. All right, the noble house meeting. You guys come as well, and cooperate with me when necessary. I'll remove House Chan from the noble house list and let you replace them. Shueishing said, All right, I understand. Don't worry, House Yu. We'll follow your footsteps. Kong Gue Feng said quickly. All right, see you then. Shueishing said as he picked up his teacup. Dr. Kong and Kong Gue Feng, on the other hand, weren't blind people. They knew that Shueishing was sending them off and quickly stood up. Then we won't disturb you any further, House Yu. We'll be on time for the noble house meeting. And Lil Feng, send House Kong off for me. Shueishing said to Yu Feng, who was standing behind him. Elder Kong, Mr. Kong, please. Yu Feng said politely to Dr. Kong, but his mind was on Ling Shan. He didn't know if Elder Song Xiangwen had made a decision yet. Yu Feng was like that. The more he couldn't get his hands on something, the more he wanted to get his hands on her. It wasn't that Ling Shan was the most beautiful person in the noble houses. There were girls with similar looks and backgrounds as her, such as House Lu's Lu Jinghan and House Sun Sun Jingyi. Of course, there were a few girls who weren't as pretty, but were still from noble houses. But after seeing Ling Shan, Yu Feng felt a sense of conquering. The more she refused, the more he wanted to get his hands on her. Chapter 1698. Yu Feng, as the son of House Yu, the oldest of the noble houses, had a sense of superiority in his heart. He'd seen all kinds of women, and there were plenty who threw themselves at him, but none like Ling Shan, who didn't care at all. Yu Feng didn't believe that he couldn't deal with Ling Shan. Yufeng only hurried back to the guest room after sending the two to the door of House Yu. "They're gone," Shuixing asked. "Yeah, they're gone. I told Yu Haitian to send someone to follow them and see what they've been up to these 2 days." Yufeng said. Shuixing nodded. He'd already agreed to let House Kong become a noble house, but he still wasn't at ease with House Kong. As a result, he told Yufeng to send someone to follow Dr. Kong and Kong Guifeng to see if they were playing any tricks. After leaving House Yu, Miracle Dr. Kong said to Guifeng impatiently, "Guifeng, you need to give Xiaoming a call and tell him to get the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing recipe from Miracle Dr. Wan's company as soon as possible. We don't have much time left, and although the promotion to a noble house went rather smoothly, House Yu won't let a powerless house like us take the position of a noble house forever." "Yes, father, I'll call Xiaoming right now." Kong Guifeng wasn't feeling too good either. Recently, Dr. Kong seemed to have taken a liking to Kong Ming. If Kong Ming really got the recipe, then Kong Ming would definitely become the next head of House Kong, and his son Xiaolong would be in danger, but Kong Guifeng didn't have a choice. Becoming a noble house had to be stronger than the current House Kong. Even if Xiaolong couldn't become the head of the house, his position would be much better than it was now. This was the benefit of being a noble house. Dr. Kong and Kong Guifeng weren't there, and their conversation was heard by Yu Haitian's men. House Yu only had Shuixing and Yufeng left, along with the half-dead Yukuan. House Yu still had a few others, and while they weren't strong, they were more than enough to follow House Kong. And so, at the same time, the conversation between the father and son was heard by Shuixing as well. "It seems like they're after the recipe," Shuixing said, "but no matter what, as long as they get the recipe, it's fine. As for where they get it from, it has nothing to do with us." "Father, about House Song Lingshan," Yufeng asked, unwilling to give up. "I've already pressured that old thing, Song Xiangwen. I'll bring it up again during the meeting, and if that old thing doesn't know what's good for him, then we'll just kick him out." Shuixing was pissed at the mention of Xiangwen. He'd agreed to it, and now something happened to his granddaughter. Shuixing felt like he'd lost a lot of face. "Thank you, father." Yufeng was overjoyed. The meeting of the noble houses, while some were happy and some were sad, was still held as promised. The so-called noble house meeting wasn't a big one. Only the heads of the 9 noble houses brought their younger generation to the meeting room of House Yu's auction house. Of course, other than the 9 noble houses, there was another house, House Kong. Other people were surprised, but when the old man of the Chun family and the old man of the Song family saw this situation, their hearts thumped. The hint was self-evident. The Kong family could participate in this meeting of the aristocratic families, which meant that the Kong family was likely to become a member of the aristocratic families. If the total number of noble houses increased by 1, then it'd be fine, but if it didn't change, then one of the noble houses would have to be purged. According to the agreement between the noble houses, it was better to have none than to have substandard members. So, those who didn't have the qualifications would definitely be purged from the noble house list. Sitting at the head of the meeting room was Yu Shuixing, and behind him was Yufeng. As the leader of the noble house meeting, it was normal for House Yu to sit at the head of the table. The younger generation was only here to gain experience, so naturally, they wouldn't sit down. House Lu's old man Lu Zhenhu, House Wu's old man Wu Gonggao, House Yang's old man Yang Daocha, House Song's old man Song Xiangwen, House Sun's old man Chen Kuanglan, House An's old man in Mingyue, House Zhao's current head Xiao Ji, and standing behind him was his brother Xiao Ben. They didn't bring Xiao Wangba and Xiao Wangdao. The only ones who stood out were House Kang's Dr. Kong and Kong Guifeng. They were sitting at the end, but the rankings would probably be rearranged after the meeting. Everyone's here. We're all old acquaintances, so I won't say much. Shuixing made a gesture for silence, speaking slowly. The noble house meeting is a rule that has been in place for many years, and I'm sure you all understand that the first part of the meeting is to rank the nobles and the nobles. This is a rule that hasn't changed since time immemorial, and the ranking of the noble houses is based on their wealth and the strength of their members, as well as the background of the noble houses. Everyone knew this rule, But the ranking was usually made up of the 4 strongest noble houses and the 5 weaker ones. This was the so-called 4 big noble houses and 5 small noble houses, but there was no specific ranking. Of course, House Yu, who was the strongest overall, was still the leader. The first part was enough to make Elder Chun Kuanglan feel sorrowful. House Chun had a huge advantage in this meeting, with Chun Yuqian becoming a mystic early phase. Add that marriage with House Chun, and there shouldn't be a problem for them to be in the 4 big noble houses. But because of Chun Yuqian's meddling, he was beaten into a cripple. House Chun was done for this time, and they probably wouldn't even have a place in the 5 small noble houses. The second part is to clean up the grudges. If you have any conflicts, you can speak up, and I and the others will help you mediate. If you can't, then we'll use the old rule, force. Of course, if you give up the right to pursue the matter, then you can't use the old grudges to talk about it anymore. This has always been the rule of us noble houses. Everyone's goal is to earn more money and more time. If we always waste our time and energy on grudges, I'm afraid no one wants to see that. Yu Shueishin continued, glancing at Elder Chun Kuanglan as he spoke. Chapter 1699. Everyone nodded after hearing Shueishin's words. Only House Chin's Chun Kuanglan and House Song's Song Xiangwen felt sorrow. It seemed like House Yu was going to use them as an example. The other houses, on the other hand, didn't have much of a grudge against each other. They were all noble houses, after all, and they all gave each other some face. Plus, there were marriages within the houses, so there wasn't much conflict. They all put on innocent and kind expressions. Only Jiang Wen stood behind his father and Ming Yue, squinting his eyes at everyone like a wolf looking for its prey. Housen wasn't weak. They didn't have any practitioners, but they had a lot of money, and they had the support of the Firewolves. There was no doubt that they'd be able to maintain their position as one of the 5 small, noble houses. But Jiang Wen didn't seem to care about all this. In his eyes, these noble houses were all his targets, fat sheep waiting to be slaughtered. Jiang Wen's ambition had grown to the extreme, and with the professor's support, he didn't care about the normal noble houses anymore. Of course, even House Yu didn't know that the Firewolf Gang was just a cover. Behind the Firewolf Gang, there was a huge backer. The professor was here to help Jiang Wen earn money, but in reality, some of the results of his research were for the backer behind the Firewolf Gang. As for the money he earned, the backer didn't really care about it, so he left it for the Firewolf Gang to develop themselves. Jiang Wen himself wasn't too clear on this, but he knew one thing. Once the professor could create a medicine that could maintain the mystic class for a long time, he'd be able to make his move on the noble houses. Regrettably, though, that medicine couldn't be given to him, or he'd get a taste of what it felt like to be a master. The third round is the sparring between the younger generation. House Yu, on the other hand, has prepared some medicine for the winner of this sparring competition, a small qi gathering pill from the hidden House Yu. I'm sure you've all heard of it. It's a great medicine for increasing strength. Shueishin said, Wah dash. Everyone revealed looks of envy and greed when they heard that the prize was a lesser qi gathering pill, but they all knew that House Yu's Yufeng was the strongest amongst the younger generation, and no one else could fight him. So, rather than saying that this prize was a prize, it was more accurate to say that House Yu took it out to show off. After all, in a sparring match, Yufeng would be the winner no matter what, and this pill was still his. Therefore, after the surprise and envy, everyone calmed down. They didn't need to think too much about things that didn't belong to them. How could something in House Yu's hands be so easily obtained? Since no one has any questions, let's move on to the first part. Each house, report your income from last year, as well as the strength of your practitioners. Do you have any backers? Shueishin said, House Yu, I don't need to talk about it. Just the income from this auction house alone is enough to cover the income of a few of your families. As for our strength, there's no need to talk about it. I'm a mystic late phase peak. Yufeng was at the middle phase of the mystic class, and our House Yu's backing is the hidden House Yu. Shueishin said that there was no need to talk about it, but he still gave a detailed description of House Yu's strength. Indeed, House Yu's strength was the strongest amongst all the noble houses. Our Shao family didn't have much income last year, but we've received a few big deals recently. Next year, we'll probably get a few billion, of course, including our fixed assets. Shao Ji said proudly. Our Shao family doesn't have any practitioners at the moment, but our backer, the Hidden House Pai, has said that he'll guide my son and nephew in training. The Shao family situation made everyone gasp. They were a family that didn't receive much attention at the auction, and now they'd become famous all of a sudden. It seemed that having the support of a hidden house was indeed different. It wouldn't be long before Shao family would be on the same level as House Yu. Other than House Yu, the Shao family had the biggest backing, so it was normal for Shao family to speak up first. Of course, the firewolves behind House Sun weren't weak either, but Mingyue was a low-profile person, especially since he and the firewolves were involved in some illegal dealings. It was best not to speak too much. Our House Lu's fixed assets increased by around 3 billion last year. As for practitioners, we don't have any yet, Zhenu said. With House Lu's strength, it wouldn't be a problem for them to keep their position, but they'd definitely become one of the 5 small noble houses. I'm a mystic middle phase, and while our House Wu's business isn't that big, we still have a few billion worth of assets. Gong Gao felt sorrowful as well. If Chen Tian hadn't died, House Wu would definitely be second only to the Shao family. But now, it was hard to say whether or not they could enter the ranks of the 4 big noble houses. House Yu's position as one of the 4 big noble houses was already set in stone, and Shao family had the intention of catching up to them. They'd definitely become one of the 4 big noble houses. As for House Sun, while they were a healer family, their position was special. As long as Elder Sun was still alive, House Sun would definitely be one of the 4 big noble houses. As for the last spot, Gong Gao felt that he might not be able to fight for it. House Sun wasn't weak either. Not only did they have the support of the Firewolves, but they were also very rich. Before, House Sun didn't have much money, but with the support of the Firewolves, they became the leader of the 5 small noble houses. Now, they'd probably enter the ranks of the 4 big noble houses. Of course, taking a step back, even if House Sun gave up on this position, if House Song agreed to the marriage with House Yu, then House Yu would definitely give House Song a spot as one of the 4 great houses. This way, House Wu would have no hope at all. One had to know that although the 4 great aristocratic families and the 5 small aristocratic families were all aristocratic families, there was a huge difference in their levels. The Wu family was definitely not as glorious as before. After that, the other houses reported their strength as well. When it was Elder Qin's turn, Chen Quanlan thought of her injured grandson, Chen Yuqian, and her heart ached. She sighed helplessly. House Qin doesn't have any properties. Chen Yuqian used to be a mystic early phase, but he was crippled. Now, he only has the support of an ancient sect. Ancient sect? Which ancient sect? Dr. Kong spoke up before Shueishing and the others could speak. To be continued. If you like this work, you're welcome to come to Qi Dian and recommend it. Your support is my greatest motivation. Chapter 1700. Chen Quanlan frowned. He knew that House Kong was up to no good. It seemed like they'd planned this from the start. The ancient sect's engagement was a top secret, and Chen Quanlan couldn't just say which sect it was. The ancient sect didn't allow him to say it, either. Plus, it had been so long, and there was no news at all. This was basically a lost cause, and Chen Quanlan didn't expect this to be a bargaining chip for House Chen. He'd lost all hope before coming here, so he wasn't surprised at all. He looked at Dr. Kong. You can pretend it's nothing. House Chen has no money, no background, and no practitioners. House Edu. How can a house like this become a noble house? Isn't that a little weird? Miracle Dr. Kong asked, a little surprised. Chino pop-up window and we're just calculating the strength of each house. We'll talk about other things later. Shueishing nodded, but the meaning behind his words was clear to everyone. Now, it's time for everyone to settle their grudges. Do you guys have any grudges? Can you bring them up? What grudges did these people have? So when Shueishing asked the question, everyone's eyes focused on Elder Chun Kuanglan. What happened these days wasn't a secret. Everyone knew what happened between House Yu and House Chun. In fact, House Chun could be considered the victim, but there was nothing they could do. Whoever was stronger was in the right. House Yu was clearly bullying House Chun, and House Chun couldn't do anything about it. Since no one's talking, then we'll start with House Yu. Shueishing turned to Chun Kuanglan faintly. Elder Chun, your Chun Yutian is meddling in my son and his girlfriend's business for no reason at all. What's going on? There's always a reason to frame someone. Chun Kuanglan was going all out. There was no chance for him to turn the situation around anymore, but he had to make things clear before leaving the noble house meeting, right? He was weak, and House Chun had no money, no practitioners, and no back. He could give up on the title of a noble house, but he couldn't allow himself to be wronged. And so Chun Kuanglan had to make things clear. Lingshan isn't your son's girlfriend, is she? This was something Lingshan had never admitted to. How is this interfering? Plus, there's nothing between my grandson and Lingshan. There's nothing between them. Your son hurt my grandson for no reason at all. Shouldn't you give us an explanation for this, House Yu? Give you an explanation? Old thing, have you gone senile? Shueishing didn't say anything, but Dr. Kong spoke up first, pointing at Chun Kuanglan. Even I, who's not from a noble house, have heard of Yu Feng and Lingshan's marriage. How could you not have? Are you bullshitting me? Dr. Kang's words made Chun Kuanglan's veins bulge. This Dr. Kong and Shueishing were working together, obviously trying to cause trouble for her. Patriarch Chun, how do you explain this? Let's talk about the facts. It's true that your Chun Yutian interfered and caused a rift between my son and Lingshan. You have to give us an explanation for this, don't you? Shueishing thought that this Dr. Kong wasn't a bad person, after all. He knew how to play along and let House Chun take a bite out of him. I give you an explanation. Chun Kuanglan clenched her fists and glared at Shueishing, her heart filled with sorrow. She was the victim here, but it was like House Yu was the one who'd suffered a huge loss. What? Elder Chun doesn't want to follow the rules of a noble house. Shueishing asked faintly. Patriarch Chun, in order to regain my face, I'm prepared to challenge your Chun Yutian. Of course, anyone from House Chun can take his place. Elder Chun, you can do it yourself, too. I won't say that you're bullying the weak. Huh. Yu Feng followed Shueishing's words with a smile. Chun Kuanglan's heart was filled with humiliation. She stood up abruptly, her eyes red as she glared at Shueishing and Yu Feng. House Yu, don't go too far. Aren't you ashamed to act like a victim? Do you think I don't know what you're trying to achieve? Elder Chun, what do you mean by this? Everything is being done according to the rules of a noble house. If you think that we're bullying you, then you can bring it up and challenge us. Shueishing said faintly. Challenge me or challenge Yu Feng, it's all fine. You? Chun Kuanglan clutched his chest, almost coughing up blood. House Chun didn't have any practitioners, so how could they be a match for House Yu? Wasn't challenging them the same as committing suicide? Chun Kuanglan was prepared to be kicked out of the noble house ranks, but he couldn't keep his cool after being humiliated like this by House Yu. House Yu had gone too far, acting like a victim when they got the advantage. Don't think I don't know what you're thinking. You want me to leave the noble house ranks, right? I'll leave. You don't have to say so much. This was supposed to be a meeting of 9 noble houses, and now there's a house calm. Shueishing, you think I don't know what you're planning? Do you think I don't know what you're trying to do with me? I'll be leaving the noble house myself this time. You don't have to worry about it anymore. Chun Kuanglan smiled bitterly as he looked around at everyone. No one was speaking up for him. Everyone knew that House Yu was twisting the facts, but who would dare speak up for House Chun? Chun Kuanglan's gaze finally landed on Song Xiangwen. Yu Qian was injured because of Lingshan, and if Xiangwen didn't speak up now, it'd be too much. But Xiangwen couldn't even protect himself right now, and as apologetic as he was, he didn't dare speak up. Old friend, don't get too worked up. Let's sit down and talk. Yeah, could it be that old man Shin thinks that by withdrawing from the ranks of the aristocratic families, everything will be fine? Shueishing followed up. Before you leave the noble house ranks, you need to give me an explanation, right? Chun Kuanglan was shaking with rage. He He never would have thought that Shueishing would be this shameless. He'd already made such a huge concession, but Shueishing was still pushing it. This made Elder Chin's chest heave up and down. Even his breathing was uneven. Target equals underscore blank. Chapter 17:01. Kuang Lan let out a long breath and pointed at Shueishing, raging, "Shueishing, don't go too far. I've already left the noble house list. What else do you want from me? Do you want me to give up my life here as an apology?" "That's right. House head you. Elder Chun is an old acquaintance of ours. Let's just let this go and let him leave peacefully." Elder Song Xiangwen couldn't help but speak up. "No pop-up window chi. House head Song. We're talking about the grudge between House Yu and House Chun. We haven't even settled our score yet, and you still want to stand up for someone else?" Shueishing looked at Xiangwen, his voice dark. "Your House Song broke the engagement. Don't you want to give us an explanation?" Xiangwen didn't think that his words for House Chun would cause Shueishing to point the spear at him. He could only look at Kuang Lan apologetically, avoiding eye contact. "House Song can't say that we broke the engagement, but the two kids don't seem to be getting along very well. I only said that they'd get along for a while. I didn't say that they had to be together. Let's not talk about you for now. We'll talk about House Chun later." Shueishing's words extinguished Xiangwen's fire. He turned back to Kuang Lan. "You're leaving the noble house list, that's for sure, but it doesn't mean that it'll be fine. House Yu's reputation has been damaged. You should at least show some sincerity to compensate us, right? House Yu, aren't you being a little unreasonable here? House Yu is the head of the noble houses, and we should be a role model. You should be more generous. Don't you think it's a little inappropriate for you to push an old man like this?" It was Sun Yikai who spoke up. He was a straightforward person, always wanting to stick his nose into things that were unfair. He knew that it wasn't his place to speak, but he couldn't help but speak up anyway. "Househead son, it seems that your upbringing isn't that great. Didn't you tell him about the rules of the noble house meeting? The young ones are only here to learn. They don't have the right to speak." Shueishing looked at Yikai darkly as he spoke to Elder Sunday Ahem. "Yikai, don't talk nonsense." Old man Sun looked at his grandson awkwardly. He also knew his grandson's character. He was the kind of chivalrous person who would stand up for injustice. However, on this occasion, with the Sun family's identity, it was impossible for them to speak up for the Chun family. "Grandpa, I'm not spouting nonsense. I'm just stating a fact. Justice is in everyone's heart. Now everyone can see that the Chun family has fallen. Just let them withdraw quietly. Why we have to make things difficult for them?" Sun Yikai was stubborn. He raised his head and said stubbornly, "Is everyone mute? Your silence today may bring about the same outcome as the Chun family tomorrow. Who can guarantee that their family will not decline like the Chun family in the future?" Sun Yikai's words were right in the hearts of all the aristocratic families. Sun Yikai was right. This time it was the Chun family. Next time it might be their family. This was especially true for the weaker families, such as the current Liu family. "Sun Yikai, do you have the right to speak here? The juniors should have the rules of the juniors. Could it be that House Sun thinks that you're strong enough, stronger than House Yu, that you can replace House Yu?" Chunyi spoke up at this moment. He was speaking for House Yu. After all, House Wu and House Sun were no longer connected by marriage. He wasn't afraid of offending House Sunday. Instead, saying something like that would please House Yu, so why not? However, he didn't think that his words would backfire on him. He said that House Yu was strong. Didn't that mean that House Yu was bullying others? If House Sun was stronger than House Yu, then wouldn't House Yu be in the wrong? And so, this flattery really pissed Shueishing off. He was pushing them step by step, but he was just pointing at them and saying that he was in the right. Now that Chengdi said it, it sounded like he was bullying others. "Head Wu, you should take care of your grandson. It's not good to stick your nose in other people's business. Wu Chintian was crippled. Because of it, don't let your grandson become crippled as well." Shueishing warned faintly. Gong Gao was a smart man, and he felt that Chengdi's words weren't very appropriate. Weren't you saying that House Yu was bullying others? How could they be happy? The noble houses had to at least keep up appearances, and if you continued like this, wouldn't House Yu be embarrassed? But Shueixing's words hit Gong Gao's sore spot. Chen Tian was his favorite, and he was being used as a scapegoat. Gong Gao was furious. Headju, what do you mean by that? What's wrong with my grandson? He's just a little injured, he's not crippled. Is he? Is this a curse? Crippled or not, you know it yourself. Shueixing wasn't afraid of Gong Gao. What, Headwu, you're not happy? Then in the third segment, you can let your grandson Chen Tian come up and spar with him. If he defeats my son Yufeng, then facts will speak louder than words. If Gong Gao's weakness was hit, but he couldn't rebuke. If he agreed, wouldn't that be sending Chen Tian to his death? Even Chen Tian wasn't a match for Yufeng. They were a whole level apart, and so Gong Gao could only keep his head down and keep quiet, sulking. All right, House Head Chun, look, no one's standing up for you now, and they all think that you should show some sincerity and compensation. Shueixing turned his attention back to Quanglan after dealing with the crowd. What sincerity? What compensation? Quanglan suppressed her anger and asked, her hand on her chest. I won't ask for much. Your House Chin's villa in Yanjing, give it to us. From now on, House Chun will move out of Yanjing, and don't let me see you again. Shueixing said coldly. Otherwise, don't blame me for remembering what happened back then. You, Quanglan almost fainted from the anger. House Chun had lived in this villa for so many years, and now he was telling him to give it up and leave Yanjing, never to appear in front of House Yu again? Me what? If it weren't for the fact that House Chun doesn't have that much money, I wouldn't have taken out $1 billion or so. Do you think this would be settled so easily? Shueixing said faintly. Shueixing, I don't know if you've heard of this saying, the river flows 30 years east and 30 years west. Prosperity and decline are ever-changing. Chen Quanglan was so angry that he calmed down. He pointed at Yu Shueixing and said word by word, Yu Shueixing, let me give you a piece of advice. Don't be too ruthless. Your house you will meet its end sooner or later. Chapter 1702. 30 years? Ha ha. Old thing, it's a question if you'll even live past 30 years. Shueixing laughed heartily, not taking Quanglan's words seriously at all. All right, I'll wait and see if this day will come for House Yu. No need to wait. 30 years is too long. The door of the conference room was kicked open, and a voice as cold as hell rang in everyone's ears. Although it was low, it was mixed with thick, true energy, causing everyone's eardrums to buzz, giving them a kind of deafening feeling. The door of the meeting room turned into a pile of wood shavings. Not a single piece was intact. Everyone in the meeting room jumped in fright. They never thought that someone would dare come at a time like this. One had to know that the Noble House meeting was a meeting of the strongest practitioners in the common world. The wood shavings slowly dispersed, and 5 people appeared in front of the meeting room. Lin, he stood in the middle. He was the one who broke the meeting room's door, and he was the one who said those words. There were 4 people behind him. 2 were standing, and 2 were sitting. Yu Shu and Ling Shan were standing, and Yu Qian and Wu Qintian were sitting. Yu Qian and Qintian were in wheelchairs, pushed by Yu Shu and Ling Shan as they followed Lin Yi into the meeting room. Lin Yi. Shueixing couldn't be more familiar with this Lin Yi person. The first time he met him was when he was with Xu Amin, and Shueixing didn't pay much attention to him back then. But after a series of events, Lin Yi became House Yu's mortal enemy. Didn't you want to see if this day would come for House Yu? Then you don't have to wait. You'll see it now. Lin Yi looked around the room, his eyes landing on Sun Yikai and Sun Jingyi. He smiled and nodded at them before turning to Jinhu. Chino pop-up window in the conference room. There were only a few acquaintances. Lin Yi didn't have any personal relationships with the others, so he naturally wouldn't greet them. When Sun Jingyi first arrived at the conference room, she was wondering why Lin Yi wasn't here. Wasn't he here with Qintian? But all he saw was Gong Gao and Qindi, not Qintian and Lin Yi. At this time, the aristocratic family's meeting had already begun, so she had no way to call Lin Yi again. After that, House Yu attacked House Chun right away, giving him no chance to talk to his grandpa. He didn't think that Lin Yi would show up at the Noble House meeting like this. Is he here to participate in the aristocratic family gathering. This was practically a show of force. Lin Yi, I didn't even have the time to find trouble with you. I didn't expect you to deliver yourself to me. Do you really think that we, the common world house you, can't do anything to you? Shueishing looked at Lin Yi, his eyes filled with rage. What a joke. I thought you brought some helpers, but you brought two handicaps, a normal person, and a mystic early-phase Lingshan. How childish. Yu Feng's strength wasn't as high as Lin Yi's, and it was because of Yu Feng that Lin Yi got into trouble, so he told Yu Feng to retreat first. He himself was busy with the noble house meeting, so he didn't have the time to look for trouble with Lin Yi. But this Lin Yi came knocking on his door. Did he really think that he was invincible as a mystic mid-phase peak? Shield bro, how did this guy become the head of House Yu? Why is he so similar to us? We're here to cause trouble, and he's not afraid at all. So what if my brother is handicapped? He can still take revenge. Yushu closed her mouth subconsciously after saying the word. She only breathed out in relief after realizing that Meng Yao wasn't there. Otherwise, she'd tell Yushu not to curse, or she'd tear her mouth apart. I don't know, but there's only two normal people left in their house. That Xie Yufeng is even more of a weakling, and he's standing out. Lin Yi said, "Oh, I see." Yushu nodded. "Prophet Shu, your house Yu is done for." The sudden appearance of Lin Yi's group stunned everyone in the meeting room. They didn't know what was going on, especially Elder Qin Kuanglan. He didn't understand. Why would the granddaughter bring her grandson here? Wasn't this just looking to die? Old Song Xiangwen, on the other hand, was a little pissed off as well. It was fine that Lingshan didn't want to marry Yu Feng, but now she was messing around with House Yu's enemies. What was House Song going to do now? Elder Wu Gonggao, on the other hand, didn't understand the situation. Qin Tian said that he had Lin Yi as his boss, and now Lin Yi brought two handicapped people to cause trouble. What was going on? Grandpa, hurry up and announce that we're not related to Qin Tian anymore. Isn't he harming us? Qin lowered his voice and said to Gonggao. Gonggao looked at Qin coldly and didn't say anything. It wasn't that he didn't understand, but he couldn't do something like that. Qin Tian was his grandson. Grandpa, I'm sorry for making you worry, but I did say that I'll be your pride. Qin Tian saw through Gonggao's confusion and comforted him. Over at House Sun, Ikai lowered his head and said to Elder Sun, Grandpa, he's my sister's boyfriend, my brother-in-law. Elder Sun thought that his ears were damaged, and he didn't hear it clearly. Ikai, what did you say? Grandpa, the boyfriend I was talking about. It's actually him. He's here. Sun Jingyi said helplessly, thinking that this Lin Yi was really something. It was fine if he didn't come, but when he did, he caused such a huge commotion. Elder Sun almost had a heart attack after hearing that. Why was Sun Jingyi's boyfriend here to cause trouble? How could this be? If House Yu found out about this, wouldn't House Sun be in trouble? Elder Sun coughed twice and was about to tell Sun Jingyi not to say anything and not to recognize him. But someone else came to recognize Lin Yi first. The talented lady of the Liu family, Liu Jinghan, had also come. Her face was covered with a veil. She did not want others to know her true appearance. She had been hiding behind the scenes of the Liu family. Even the people of the other aristocratic families did not know what Liu Jinghan looked like. However, the other aristocratic families did not care about her mystery. Even if she was as beautiful as a goddess, she wasn't a practitioner. The temptation of a beauty wasn't as strong as the strength of a practitioner. Jing, what do we do? Liu Tianyi stood behind Liu Jinhu and asked Liu Jinghan in a low voice. Chapter 1703. Something's not good. I think House Yu is done for this time. Liu Jinghan pondered for a moment and said, she was a person who was good at calculation and analysis. Based on the research and analysis she had collected on Lin Yi during this period of time, it seemed that Lin Yi would not do something so stupid as to throw away his life. There was only one possibility, and that was that Lin Yi had absolute confidence. Then House Yu would be in danger. Liu Tianyi raised his eyebrows and walked quickly towards Lin Yi. Under everyone's surprised gaze, he greeted Lin Yi enthusiastically. Miracle Dr. Lin, you're here. Why didn't you tell me in advance that I was going to pick you up? Hee hee, I'm here to cause a scene. If I told you, wouldn't I implicate you? Lin Yi was also a little surprised that Lu Qianyi would publicly support him at this time. One had to know that Lin Yi's current strength was far below House Yu's in everyone's eyes, but Lu Qianyi supported him so decisively. This was not an easy feat. Therefore, at this moment, the Lu family was also included in Lin Yi's scope of use. What are you talking about? What's there to implicate? You are my father's savior and our Lu family's great benefactor. Our Lu family will go through water and tread on fire to help you. Lu Qianyi said. You're not bad. Lin Yi nodded. But Mr. Lu, you should stay away for a while. You're not a cultivator, so you can't solve the problem here. Okay. Lu Qianyi nodded and dodged to the side. Lu Qianyi, how are you? As soon as Lin Yi came, you want to suck up to him. House you will remember this grudge. Shueishing felt like he'd lost a lot of face. Lu Qianyi was slapping him in the face. And so, Shueishing decided that once this was over, the next target would be House Lu. All right, don't write it down. I reckon that after today, you'll lose your ability to remember. Lin Yi said indifferently. What do you mean? Yu Feng raged. Lin Yi, don't think I'm scared of you just because you're a level higher than me. My father is a mystic late-phase peak, one step away from the Earth class. It's not too late for you to kneel and beg for mercy. What do you mean he doesn't know? Lin Yi shrugged and turned to Yu Shu. Shu, this guy's a little dumb. Tell him what he means. Shield bro means to tell you that after today, you're a dead man. Dead people don't have memories. Yu Shu said proudly as she looked at Lin Yi. Shield bro, am I right? Congratulations, you're absolutely right. Lin Yi nodded. Yay. Yu Shu made a victory sign with her hand. Ha 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 ha. Yu Feng started laughing. Lin Yi, are you out of your mind? You're just a bunch of old people, and you want to challenge me? Who do you think you are? I can kill you even if I'm a cripple. Yu Qin clenched his fists and looked at Yu Feng. Yu Feng, didn't your house you say it? If you want to solve your grudges, you could do it with force? Very well, I'll challenge you now. Challenge me? You? Yu Feng's eyes widened as if he'd heard the funniest joke in the world. You're a cripple and you want to challenge me? Shin Yutian, do you want to die? We don't know who's going to die yet. Yutian said indifferently. The humiliation from that day, I'll wash it away today. Headshun, you see, your grandson is the one who wants to die. We didn't kill him. Yu Feng said to Kuang Lan, you know the rules of the arena. Life and death are decided by the heavens, and there's no need to pursue this matter. Kuang Lan was surprised by Yu Tian's sudden appearance, and even more so by his sudden challenge to Yu Feng. But as far as he was concerned, his grandson wasn't that impulsive, and Yu Shu was here as well. How could he just watch Yu Tian walk to his death? There had to be something he didn't know, but he still said, this is Yu Tian's decision. I support him. All right, let's go to the arena next door. Shueishing, on the other hand, wanted to see what Lin Yi was up to, but in order to prevent them from playing any tricks, he spoke up first. Shin Yutian, since you're the one who issued the challenge, you should go up, right? You won't find someone to replace you, will you? To be honest, Shueishing was really afraid that Yu Tian would find Lin Yi to replace him. And so, he blocked Yu Tian's escape route and continued. Don't say that Lin Yi is your sister's boyfriend, that he's part of House Qin too. No need. I'll take my revenge with my own hands. Yu Qin looked at Shueishing with disdain. All right, you're asking to die, so don't blame anyone else. Shueishing said, as long as Lin Yi didn't go up, everything would be fine. Yu Qin was a cripple, and even if he wasn't in a wheelchair, he was only a mystic early phase, 2 levels lower than Yu Feng. Yu Feng could easily beat him up. There's no need for the arena. We can settle it here. Yu Qin said, ha ha, do what you want, but don't say that I'm bullying you. You're just a piece of trash in my hands, and you still are. Yu Feng laughed as he walked towards Yu Tian, but his laughter stopped abruptly. Because he saw Chun Yu Tian, who was sitting in the wheelchair, stand up. Yu Feng's eyes widened. Wasn't Yu Tian disabled? Wasn't he in a wheelchair? How could he stand up? Yu Feng pointed at Yu Tian in disbelief. Aren't you disabled? Who told you that disabled people can't recover? I just got out of the hospital, can't I? Yu Tian looked at Yu Feng mockingly. Then, Why are you in a wheelchair? Yufeng felt that something was wrong, but he couldn't pinpoint it. After all, no matter how strong Yutian was, he was only a mystic early phase, and that was before he was injured. Even if he had some miraculous medicine that could heal Yutian's wounds and restore his strength, he was only an early phase mystic class master. Even if he broke through during this period of time, he could only be a peak early phase mystic class master. There was still a gap between him and Lin Yi. What was there to be afraid of? However, Yufeng had an indescribable sense of foreboding. He felt that this matter was a little too strange. Oh, I was in a wheelchair every day in a hospital, so I'm used to it. Yu Qian stretched his body. Suddenly standing up makes me feel a little lightheaded, so the doctor told me to do some recovery training, but they're using you. Target equals underscore blank. Chapter 1704. Are you messing with me? Wow, bro, you're so pretentious, but not as good as Shield Bro, Yushu complimented. Yu Qian was about to say of course when he heard the second half of his sister's sentence. He almost fell back into the wheelchair. But thinking about it, it was normal that he wasn't as strong as Lin Yi. If he was stronger than Lin Yi, why would he call Lin Yi his boss? Chen Yutian said proudly, "That's right, I wanted to make some entrance music, just like in dramas. Too bad, I came in a rush and didn't have time to prepare anything." "That's right, I didn't have time." "Fuck, Chen Yutian, don't think that you can beat me now that you're out of the hospital. You're just an early phase mystic class. You're dreaming if you think you can beat me." Yu Qian and Yushu's words completely infuriated Yufeng. He was ignored, and this made him furious. "Who told you that I'm still an early phase mystic class?" Yu Qian asked back. "Yufeng, there's something wrong with your brain. You're not an early phase mystic class. Are you at the peak of early phase mystic class?" Yufeng froze. "No." Yu Qian shook his head. "Then you're still an early phase mystic class. Are you messing with me?" Yufeng was stunned by Yu Tian's words, and his embarrassment turned into anger. He wanted to charge at Yu Qian. "Chen Yu Qian, I think you're here to die." "Feng, wait." Shueixing felt that something was wrong. Yufeng was hot-headed, but Shueixing wasn't hot-headed. He felt that something was wrong. No matter how stupid Yu Tian was, he wouldn't come here to die, would he? Could it be that this kid had some dirty tricks up his sleeve? After all, from Shueixing's perspective, it was impossible for Yu Tian to increase his strength, but he might have a trump card. Otherwise, why would he dare to provoke him like this? "What, Shueixing? Are you going back on your words and breaking the rules you set yourself? Grudges and grudges should be settled with strength?" Grandpa Chun Quanglon, saw that his grandson was full of confidence and his granddaughter was also very normal. Although he was puzzled, he understood his grandson and granddaughter better than anyone else. Chen Yutian was a little impulsive, but he wouldn't do something so stupid. Plus, he had Yushu by his side. How could Yushu let Chen Yutian die? Especially that mysterious Lin Yi. Elder Chun had heard of him a long time ago. Although he was Meng Yao and Shu's bodyguard on the surface, what he did wasn't something a bodyguard should do. Killing a master from House Yu and crippling a master from House Yu? Was this something a normal bodyguard would do? Plus, that wasn't all. Wasn't the hidden house pie powerful? Lin Yi still got rid of one, and his follower Er Gooden got rid of two. House Pie didn't even dare to fart. Wasn't that suspicious? If this wasn't amazing, then Jin Wudi and his disciple Ma Zhu from the Golden Bell sect were both killed by Lin Yi and Er Gooden. This was a miracle. Jin Wudi was a master of the Golden Bell shield, and even Earth-class masters had to be careful of him. Yet he was killed by Lin Yi's follower in one punch. What kind of level was this? And so, Chun Quanglon thought of all these miracles, and it was as if he'd taken a stimulant. He started shaking all of a sudden, sweeping away the darkness and pressure from before. He thought it through. Since his grandson was so confident, he'd go crazy with him this time. House Chun was about to fall, and with Lin Yi's help, he might be able to turn the situation around. Shueixing paused at the change in Chun Quanglon's attitude, but it was fine if he didn't say it. Now that he said it, Shueixing felt more confident. He wasn't as old as Chun Quanglon, but his eyes were sharper and sharper. One look, and he saw the hidden worry and madness in Chen Quanlan's eyes. It seemed like this old thing was worried as well, and Chen Quanlan probably didn't know about what Yu Tian had done today. This meant that Yu Tian had acted on his own, or Chen Quanlan wouldn't have that expression on her face right now. Taking a step back, if House Chun had really prepared beforehand, then Chen Quanlan wouldn't have been forced to this state at the start. If that was the case, then what was there to be afraid of? Perhaps Yu Tian wasn't willing to give up and came to get revenge as soon as he recovered. Or maybe he learned some tricks from Lin Yi and thought he was strong enough to challenge Yu Feng. From Shueixing's perspective, if Yu Tian really had absolute confidence, there was no way Chen Quanlan wouldn't know about it, and House Chen wouldn't be so passive this time. Of course, this was only what a normal person would think. Shueixing neglected the fact that Lin Yi had a deeper intention, and that was to destroy House Yu. Yu Tian's revenge on Yu Feng was just a prelude, a warm-up. The real show was yet to come, but this was something Shueixing couldn't have foreseen. How could he know that Lin Yi was already in Earth class? Of course not. I just have some things that I need to make clear, Shueixing said faintly as he looked at Chen Quanlan. Before the challenge, I'm sure you understand the rules of the arena, right? Life and death are up to the heavens, and no one can be held accountable. Of course. Chen Quanlan felt a little guilty after hearing Shueixing's words, but he still tried to act tough. What's there to say? We're all from noble houses, of course we know this. Yu Tian knows this as well. That's good. Lil Feng, don't go easy on him. Be careful of his dirty tricks. Shueixing nodded, hinting to Yu Feng. He wanted him to kill as soon as possible, so that Yu Tian wouldn't have a chance to make a comeback. Shueixing, on the other hand, saw the flash of worry in Chen Quanlan's eyes, and this made him feel more at ease. It seemed that Chen Quanlan didn't have confidence in Yu Tian, either. He was thinking too much. Shueixing thought. No problem. Chen Yu Tian, I didn't kill you last time, but I won't go easy on you this time. Since you're here, you should be prepared to die. With that, Yu Feng's hands turned into palms, slapping towards Yu Tian. Lin Yi saw this move, but Lin Yi shook his head. The difference between Mystic and Earth class wasn't just a little bit. It was a dividing line, and that wasn't wrong at all. Upon reaching the Earth rank, one could learn martial techniques, and only with martial techniques could one be called a true cultivator. In the past, he'd only been a beginner. But now that Lin Yi was an Earth class master, Yu Feng was nothing more than a beginner. Hashtag. Chapter 1705. Was this a dream? Yu Tian's lips curled into a cold smile as he channeled his own practitioner's arts, pushing out his palms as well, wanting to use the same move to meet Yu Feng's attack. Watch out, Feng. Shueixing felt Yu Tian's strength in that instant, and at the same time, he couldn't help but blurt out, "Careful." But it was too late. The two's palms collided in an instant. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that Yu Feng was sent flying by Yu Tian the moment Shueixing's words left his mouth, crashing into the white wall of the meeting room. The force of the impact created a human-shaped hole in the wall, with blood stains all over it. Mystic mid-phase and Mystic late-phase peak were two completely different fighters. If they'd been fighting with techniques, Yu Feng wouldn't have lost so badly, but Yu Feng had chosen to fight head-on. He'd listened to Shueixing's words and wanted to kill Yu Tian right off the bat, but he hadn't expected the opponent's chi to be so strong that he'd been sent flying. Everyone was dumbfounded, including Chen Quanlan and the other heads of the noble houses. They stared at Yu Tian in disbelief. House Chen's Yu Tian was a nobody at first, a small golden class early phase. It wasn't until recently that he made a name for himself, but it was an ironic one. People said that he was trying to steal Yu Feng's woman right after he broke through to the early phase of Mystic class, and that he was heavily injured and crippled, but no one would have thought that Yu Tian would become a Mystic late phase peak and appear at the noble house meeting like this. Now, even an idiot would know that Yu Tian came prepared and that he wasn't just hot-blooded. Of course, these people were just shocked and envious, but Elder Chun was shaking with excitement. He remembered what Yu Tian said to him on the phone a few days ago. Grandpa, I will be your pride. But he had done it. What did a mystic late phase peak mean to House Chun? Chen Quanlan knew it all too well. This was a top noble house, and only house you had one. In other words, the rise of the Chen family was no longer a dream. Chen Quanlan wanted to laugh out loud. Her name was really good. Chen Quanlan had truly turned the tide. At the Chun family's most critical moment, her grandson had turned the tide for her and raised the Chun family's morale. Xiao Feng, Shueixing stood up abruptly, roaring in anger. Chen Yuqian, you're a mystic late phase peak? How dare you trick me? I'm cheating? Yuqian smiled. What did I say that I'm not a mystic late phase peak? Did I say that? I'm just saying that I'm not at the early phase of mystic class, nor am I at the peak of the early phase. You and your son are stupid, thinking that I'm weak. Yuqian's question froze Shueixing's face. Yuqian didn't say that he wasn't a mystic late phase peak. It was a misunderstanding. But when Yu Shueixing saw Yu Feng covered in blood, he had the urge to kill Chen Yutian. But now, under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Shueixing really couldn't do anything to Yutian. The noble house meeting had its own rules, and if House Yu were to break the rules, how could they continue to be the leader in the future? With that thought, Shueixing decided to check on Yu Feng's injuries first, and then find a chance to wipe out House Chun. Of course, he couldn't do it now. Not only could he not do it, but he had to be generous and let House Chun continue to be a noble house. That was the only way to show House Yu's generosity and selflessness. As for taking revenge on House Chun after that, he just had to do it in secret and not let others criticize him. Humph. Shueixing humphed coldly at the thought. He stood up and walked towards Yu Feng, intending to check on Yu Feng's injuries when he heard Lin Yi's faint voice. Since House Yu said that his life and death is up to the heavens, then you can send him to hell. Lin Yi looked at Yu Feng and said to Yu Qian, because your name is Chun Yutian, that's why your life and death is up to the heavens. Haha, Shield bro, you're so talented. Yu Shu was amused by Lin Yi's words. Yes, Yu Qian didn't plan on letting Yu Feng. If it weren't for Lin Yi's help, he would have had to spend the rest of his life in a wheelchair. There was no way he would let Yu Feng go so easily. And so, Yu Qian answered and flew towards Yu Feng. Shueixing and Yu Tian were both mystic masters, and both of them were at the peak of the late phase of the mystic class. Yu Tian was closer to Yu Feng, and so naturally, he reached Yu Feng's side first. Yu Tian raised his foot, stomping down on Yu Feng's left leg. The crisp sound of bone breaking was especially ear-piercing in the quiet meeting room, making Shueixing's heart tremble. Brat, don't you dare. You're looking to die. Yu Feng has already lost, and you still want to kill him. But Yu Qian acted as if he didn't hear Shueixing's words. He raised his foot again and stomped down on Yu Feng's right leg. Another crisp crack sounded, and Yu Feng's right leg broke as well. Yu Feng was finally woken up by the intense pain, but it was only for a split second before he fainted again with a howl of agony. Looks like the head of the Yu house is quite agitated. Shan, go talk to him, tell him to calm down. Lin, he said to Ling Shan. All right. Ling Shan didn't say anything and went to block Shueixing's path, stopping him from getting close to Yu Tian. At that moment, Ling Shan's mystic late phase peak was on full display, and Shueixing's steps froze. Another mystic late phase peak? Shueixing looked at Ling Shan in disbelief. He never would have thought that mystic late phase peak would become so worthless all of a sudden. These kids from noble houses who didn't show their strength before were all mystic late phase peak now. At that moment, Xiangwen's face turned red with excitement as well. House Chen's Yutian had become a mystic late phase peak, and all he could do was envy and jealousy. But this time, if House Chun was lucky enough to survive this, then the next unlucky ones would be House Song. He didn't think that his granddaughter would become a mystic late phase peak as well. This was too shocking. His granddaughter had just broken through to mystic early phase not too long ago, and now she was a mystic late phase peak now? This span and this leveling speed gave Song Xiangwen a surreal feeling. Was he dreaming? #target equals _blank. Chapter 1706. Chapter 1707. Another Earth class, however. What happened next proved to Song Xiangwen that he was not dreaming. Head you're the one who said that life and death is up to the heavens. Please don't break the rules of the noble house meeting. Lingshan hated Yu Feng to the bone and naturally wouldn't let Shueixing interfere. Song girl, do you really think that just because you're a mystic late phase peak like me, you're on the same level as me? Shueixing smiled coldly as he looked at Lingshan. I can tell just by looking at your skills. You've only just reached mystic late phase peak and haven't stabilized it yet. It'll be too easy for me to beat you. However, as Yu Shueixing spoke, Yu Qian broke Yu Feng's left arm with a stomp. Shueixing's heart clenched as he threatened again. Don't force me to break a flower. Wu Qintian. Lin Yi could tell that Lingshan wasn't a match for Shueixing alone. After all, Shueixing was a mystic late phase peak, and he'd stabilized his strength a long time ago. Lingshan, on the other hand, lacked battle experience. She might really be at a disadvantage here. And so, Lin Yi decided to let Chen Tian handle Shueixing. Go help him. Yes. Chen Tian stood up from the wheelchair with a whoosh, his whole body displaying the strength of a mystic late phase peak and a physical practitioner. One mystic late phase peak isn't enough. Would another mystic late phase peak be enough? Chen Tian's strength shocked everyone once more. The first two mystic late phase peak masters were already hard to accept, but Chen Tian was a dual practitioner, a mystic late phase peak. This made everyone feel like their heads were about to explode. Huh. Gong Gao stood up abruptly. Ha. I knew it. Chen Tian wouldn't disappoint me. Ha ha ha. He's a mystic late phase peak and a physical practitioner now. House will have nothing to worry about now. Truth be told, Shueixing was confident in taking on a newbie like Lingshan, but two mystic late phase peak? That wasn't something he could handle, let alone one who was a practitioner of both body and spirit. Lingshan and Chen Tian stood beside Shueixing, one on the left and one on the right. They'd attack him if he made any sudden movements. Crack! Yu Feng's right arm was broken by Yu Tian as well. This made Shueixing's mouth twitch a little, but there was nothing he could do. Yu Tian and three mystic late phase peak masters. How could he fight them? Unless Chen Yu Tian didn't stop after breaking Yu Feng's limbs. He kicked Yu Feng out of the meeting room's window with a whoosh. This was the highest floor of House Yu's auction house. Yu Feng flew out of the window, and if he landed on the ground, he'd definitely be smashed into meat paste. It wouldn't be a problem if he was conscious, but he was unconscious right now, and he'd probably die if he fell. Lin Feng. Shueixing didn't expect Yu Tian to be this ruthless, kicking Yu Feng out of the window. He wanted to stop him, but it was too late. Shueixing saw Yu Tian abuse Yu Feng, and he thought that the guy was just venting his anger, not taking his life. After all, if he wanted to kill Yu Feng, all he had to do was stomp on his head. Shueixing was angry, but he wasn't too worried. At least Yu Feng's life wasn't in danger, and as long as he was alive, he'd have his revenge one day. He didn't expect Yu Tian to do this all of a sudden. What he didn't know was that Yu Tian was giving Yu Feng a taste of his own medicine. Yu Tian had been kicked out of the window like this back then, just that it wasn't this high. Wah! You're looking to die, brat. Shueixing was completely furious. He didn't expect Yu Tian to be so ruthless. But he didn't know that he wanted Yu Feng to kill him back then, didn't he? Shueixing's eyes were bloodshot as he looked at the broken window. He knew that his son wasn't going to make it out of this alive. Falling from such a high place, without any chi to protect him, he'd die for sure. Shueixing took a deep breath and quickly took out a pill from his pocket, throwing it into his mouth. In an instant, the chi around Shueixing's body exploded, and he went from mystic late phase peak to Earth class early phase. What? Earth class early phase? Chen Kuanglan, Xiangwen, and Gong Gao were all taken aback. They'd never seen something as strange as this before. With just one pill, Shueixing went from mystic late phase peak to Earth class early phase in one go. Ha ha ha. You didn't expect this, did you? Since you've killed my son, then none of the families that participated in this shall leave this place alive. Shuaishing seemed to have gone mad as he laughed at the sky. House Chun, House Song, House Wu, House Lu, you shall all die with my son. This was Shuaishing's trump card, as well as his ultimate weapon. This was a pill that could instantly increase one's strength and potential, but it was an evil pill that came at the cost of one's lifespan. This pill was made by the Everyday and Everyday sect, and Yu Shuaishing had gotten it from the Hidden House Yu. No one in the Hidden House Yu would use a pill like this that would damage their strength, so giving one to Yu Shuaishing wasn't a big deal. After all, this pill had side effects. A normal person could instantly become a golden class after using it, and a golden class could become a mystic after using it, and so on and so forth. But the price was huge. A normal person had to pay 5 years of lifespan to become a golden class, and a golden class had to pay 10 years to become a mystic. A mystic, on the other hand, had to pay 30 years of lifespan. As long as they didn't step into Sky Class, a practitioner's lifespan was the same as a normal person's. They might live a little longer than a normal person, but not by much. As a result, 30 years of lifespan was fatal. How many years did a person have in their life? One pill reduced 30 years of lifespan, and how many 30 years could a person have? And because of the exhaustion, a normal person would be fine, but a practitioner would drop from Mystic to Golden class after the effect wore off. Depending on how much energy was used up, the practitioner would drop from Mystic to Golden class early phase. How could someone from the Hidden House use such a huge side effect? Hashtag target equals _ blank. Chapter 1707. Shuaishing, on the other hand, was extremely grateful to Shuaishing, treating it like a treasure. Now that his third brother was dead, his nephew crippled, and his son dead, what was the point of living anymore? Under the impulse of hatred, he was willing to lose 30 years of his life to consume the pill. An Earth class. He's an Earth class. Chen Kuanglan was the most worried of all. Shuaishing's first target was Yu Qian, and so she made a quick decision. Yu Qian, run. Run? Where to? Not a single one of you can run. Shuaishing smiled coldly. You want to run in front of an Earth class? Chen Yu Qian, I'll bury you with foam. Earth first. Earth class, what's so great about that? Plus, you're a fake Earth class, using pills to level up. Lin Yi, who'd been standing at the door, finally moved, walking towards Shuaishing as he spoke. The others didn't know what was going on, but Lin Yi wasn't a stranger to Shuaishing's sudden increase in strength. He Bao had gone through something similar, and it seemed that Shuaishing had used a similar method. Lin Yi, even if you're a Mystic Late Phase Peak, you 4 Mystic Late Phase Peak Masters are no match for me. Shuaishing was evidently more reckless than Boss Yu, and he was more willing to risk his life than Boss Yu. Boss Yu was scared like a mouse when he faced Lin Yi, a Mystic Mid-Phase Peak, but this Shuaishing wasn't afraid of 4 Mystic Late Phase Peak Masters at all. But the dragon's 9 sons were all different. Even if Boss Yu and Shuaishing were from the same family, their personalities were completely different. Of course, if Shuaishing were to fight Lin Yi and the other Mystic Late Phase Peak Masters with his Earth-class strength, he'd have a good chance of winning. Of course, the premise was that Lin Yi didn't have a trump card like the Energy Bomb. If he did, then even an Earth class would die easily. Holy Hall, what if I'm not? Lin Yi asked. No. You're even more hopeless. It looks like you're the mastermind behind all of this. I'll start with you then, Shuaishing said as he flew towards Lin. Wait a minute. Before we start fighting, I want to ask you something, Lin Yi said. Haha. If you have any last words, you can leave them here. But I can't promise that everyone here will help you, because everyone related to you will die today. Shuaishing laughed proudly. Holy Church, I'd like to ask, has your house Yu ever been a bodyguard for an international drug gang? Lin Yi stared at Shuaishing as he pressed. Shuaishing paused after hearing Lin Yi's words. He didn't think that Lin Yi would ask this question. He thought that Lin Yi wanted to say something harsh or something. Answer me, did you? Lin Yi asked. How is this possible? Our house Yu is a legitimate business. Why would we be a bodyguard for some drug gang? Shuaishing denied flatly, but his eyes flashed with shock and suspicion. He was trying to figure out how Lin Yi knew about this. You didn't. Lin Yi had been an assassin before, and his psychological analysis was even better than Shueixing's. He could tell that Shueixing was lying just by looking at his eyes. You don't need to deny it. I have two friends. One is Yang Huaijuan, injured by your house you. His meridian's broken, and he almost lost his life. The other is Armadillo. We don't know if he's alive or dead. What's the point of saying all that? If you want to punish us, then show me your strength. Shueixing didn't admit or deny it. It wasn't a big secret that House Yu did some shady things under their glamour, after all, and the other noble houses knew a little about it. Otherwise, Huaijuan wouldn't have been able to trace the clues back to House Yu so easily. Yang Huaijuan, what happened back then? Was it your House Yu's doing? Elder Yang Daocha stood up abruptly, glaring at Shueixing. What happened to Huaijuan was a huge blow to House Yang, but they hadn't been able to find the culprit after all these years. But with Lin Yi's words, Elder Yang naturally understood what was going on. Oomph, I didn't say anything. Shueixing wasn't afraid of Elder Yang at all. He hemped coldly. I'll give you one last chance. Tell me who else was involved, and I'll make sure your House Yu isn't destroyed. Lin Yi walked towards Shueixing, his voice lifeless, as if it came from hell. Why would I remember something like that? What's the point of saying so much? Winner takes all, and if he's injured or dead, it can only be said that he's not strong enough. Shueixing said, Fine, then you can die now. Lin Yi shook his head in disappointment. Actually, I don't feel any sense of accomplishment beating a fake Earth class like you. Shueixing paused. He was about to say that Lin Yi was boasting when Lin Yi's aura burst forth. Shueixing's eyes went wide as he felt the pressure. You're an Earth class early phase. Yeah, that's why I said that beating a fake Earth class like you doesn't feel any sense of accomplishment at all. Lin Yi shook his head. Shueixing's expression changed. To be honest, he never would have thought that Lin Yi was an Earth class. Otherwise, he wouldn't have used the pill to forcefully raise his strength to Earth class early phase. After taking the pill, he would enter a state of madness. For a moment, his strength would be stronger than a real Earth rank early phase. Then, he would be weakened for a month. He would become weaker and weaker until he regained his original strength. Then, he would start to drop levels. But at this moment, he was the strongest. However, facing a true Earth class like Lin, Shueixing instinctively lost his confidence. He didn't know if he could beat Lin Yi. Oomph, you were just a mystic mid-phase peak before, and now you're an Earth class early phase? You must have used some unorthodox methods to get to that level. We're not that far apart. We don't know who's going to win yet. Shueixing gritted his teeth. He couldn't back down now. He could only press forward. Kid, give me your life. But after saying that, Shueixing didn't charge at Lin Yi. Instead, he turned and charged at Yutian. Before dealing with Lin Yi, Shueixing decided to kill Yutian first. This way, no matter who won or lost, he wouldn't be at a disadvantage. Target equals _ blank. Chapter 1708. Earth Class Technique, Frenzy Fist. Lin Yi was an assassin, and his eyes and speed were much better than normal practitioners. How could Lin Yi not understand Shueixing's intentions when he saw him suddenly attack Yutian? Lin Yi had wanted to use Shueixing to practice, but it seemed like that wasn't going to work. Lin Yi's first move was an Earth Class technique. This Frenzy Fist was a technique Faubert had practiced before. There were only the first 3 forms, but it was more than enough for Lin Yi right now. The first 3 forms were prepared for early phase Earth Class masters. These few days, Lin Yi had been practicing Frenzy Fist by himself, but it was his first time using it against an enemy. Shueixing's face froze. He didn't think that Lin Yi had practiced a technique. One had to know that the biggest difference between Earth Class and Mystic Class was the training of their techniques. Shueixing was an Earth Class fake, and he had relied on elixirs to force his way up. How could he have learned any techniques? At most, his strength had reached the early phase of Earth Class, or with the help of the elixirs, he could temporarily reach the peak of the early phase. If it was a clash of pure strength, Lin he might not be Shueishing's opponent, but it was a different story with techniques. Martial skills were different from ordinary martial arts. Before reaching the Earth rank, the internal martial arts masters relied on condensing their Zhen Qi into their fists and feet. They relied purely on the amount of Zhen Qi and its tyrannical degree to attack the enemy. However, techniques could bring out the full potential of Qi. To put it bluntly, it was turning Qi into a form much more domineering than pure Qi. Shueishing was from a noble house, and naturally, he'd heard of techniques. Only freelancers like Lin, he hadn't heard of them before, but now that the newcomer had caught up, a normal frenzy fist was enough to make Shueishing feel like he was facing a great enemy. He couldn't care less about attacking Yutian anymore, and after hearing Lin Yi's roar, he panicked and dodged, moving away from Lin Yi's attack range. However, after Shueishing ran away, Lin Yi's fist didn't reach him. Lin Yi was still standing where he was, and this made Shueishing confused. Didn't Lin Yi use an Earth-class technique? Why did it look like nothing had happened? Sorry, I failed. Lin Yi sweated. Since Faober was an Earth-class, he couldn't demonstrate it himself, so Lin Yi had to figure it out himself. This was his first time in battle, and he'd fail if he wasn't careful. You're messing with me? Shueishing subconsciously thought that Lin Yi didn't know any techniques, and was just bluffing to scare him. Holy Hall, no, I just reached your class not long ago, and I just learned this new technique. I'm not too familiar with it, so I couldn't use it. I'm sorry. Lin Yi said apologetically. Stand there and don't move, I'll use it again. See if it works. Fuck, do you think I'm an idiot? Shueishing was pissed off by Lin Yi's words. Did Lin Yi think he was a 3-year-old? Stand there and don't move? Wait for him to hit me? But Lin Yi didn't waste time with him. He suddenly pushed out with both fists, yelling, Frenzy Fist! Shueishing was so scared that he ran away from where he was standing, faster than a mouse. Hiding on the side, Shueishing subconsciously looked at where Lin Yi was attacking, but realized that Lin Yi still hadn't used any techniques. Lin Yi stood where he was, and the place Lin Yi attacked didn't seem to be damaged at all. Lin Yi, you're messing with me? Shueishing was completely enraged. He believed that Lin Yi had just learned the technique and wasn't familiar with it yet, so he hadn't used it yet. But he didn't use it the second time? Wasn't this bullshit? How could Shueishing believe this? Anyone else would suspect that Lin Yi was just trying to scare him. I'm not messing with you. I really didn't use it. Lin Yi wasn't lying to Shueishing. Lin Yi didn't have a target before, so he'd been practicing the techniques in his jade space. It was his first time using it against an enemy, so he'd made 2 mistakes. You're looking to die. Shueishing raged. Wait, it'll work this time, Lin Yi said before roaring at Shueishing again. Frenzy Fist. Shueishing didn't really believe it, but he still subconsciously dodged to the side. Lin Yi was a cunning bastard. What if he really didn't use it before and used it again? Unfortunately, Lin Yi didn't use it this time. Shueishing was once again being played like a monkey. This time, however, Lin Yi was truly playing him. Lin Yi didn't plan on using Frenzy Fist at all, and after 2 failed attempts, Lin Yi gave up on using Frenzy Fist and started compressing the energy bomb. To tell the truth, Lin Yi felt a bit helpless when he switched to this move. It was his only trump card, and it was a bit pitiful. He'd use it from Golden Class to Earth Class, but he was still using it. Lin Yi couldn't wait to find some new trump cards, but the stone door to the 2nd floor wasn't open yet. The first layer of the Art of Dragon Mastery had been studied by Lin Yi to its fullest, and he couldn't find anything else he could use. And so, Lin Yi could only start compressing the energy, preparing to use Oscillation Fist to attack Shueishing. Of course, he didn't show it on his face as he tricked Shueishing. Who the hell would believe you? Shueishing humphed as he raised his fist at Lin Yi. Brat, I'll pay with my life today. Lin Yi had already started compressing the energy in his body, but it wasn't enough time for him to hurt anyone. He could only raise his fist to meet Shueishing's attack. Bam! The 2 fists collided in midair, creating a loud sound. This was the sound of Qi colliding between 2 Earth-class masters. Lin Yi took 2 steps back, while Shueishing didn't move an inch from where he stood. Lin Yi's face flushed red, then paled as a trickle of blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. Huffed. Lin Yi spat out a mouthful of blood, shocking the people who'd thought highly of Lin Yi. They didn't think that Lin Yi, a true Earth-class early phase, wouldn't be able to defeat Shueishing, a pseudo-Earth-class early phase who'd relied on medicine. In fact, Shueishing was burning his own life force in exchange for strength. In the early stages of the pill's effect, Shueishing was able to maintain his Mystic-class early phase peak, which meant that he was only one step away from Mystic-class early phase peak. Target equals _ blank. Chapter 1709. Lin Yi, on the other hand, had just leveled up to the early phase of Mystic Division, and there was still a long way to go before he reached the peak of the early phase. It was clear who had the upper hand. In terms of pure strength, Lin Yi would definitely be at a disadvantage. Although Lin Yi had the ability to fight above his level, the problem was that Lin Yi was multitasking and the chi in his body was split into two parts. One was used to compress, and the other was used to fight Shueishing. Naturally, he would be at a disadvantage. This meant that Lin Yi was a bit weaker than Shueishing. If it weren't for Lin Yi taking 3 steps back and mitigating the attack from Shueishing's chi, Lin Yi would have been hurt even more. But now, Lin Yi had actually suffered some internal injuries that were neither light nor heavy. Ha ha! And here I thought you were showing off in front of me, right after reaching Earth-class early phase. Why aren't you showing off now? Spitting blood? Shueishing was overjoyed to see Lin Yi spitting blood. This meant that he was stronger than Lin Yi after taking the pill. It was worth it. You're an Earth-class early phase, full circle? Lin Yi pretended to be surprised. Holy Hall, of course. Do you think I'm just taking the pill for nothing? Shueishing looked at Lin Yi proudly. Victory was within his grasp now, and his mood was getting better. You really are an idiot, calling yourself an old man in your 40s? Everyone else is acting young. You're acting old. Lin Yi said mockingly. Whatever you say, I've got you. Shueishing looked around at the people in the meeting room. Why aren't you talking? Are you scared? Why would you get involved with Lin Yi if you knew? Song Xiangwen, Wu Gonggao. Tell your people to stop now, and I'll spare their lives. In fact, Shueishing was afraid that Lin Yi would get desperate and attack him with 3 Mystic late phase peak and an Earth-class early phase. Although he was strong and wasn't afraid of 4 Mystic late phase peak masters, there was still an Earth-class like Lin Yi. It was hard for him to control, so he spoke first to split Lin Yi's alliance. What? Are you scared? Are you afraid that the 4 of us will join forces to deal with you? Lin Yi asked. Scared? I'm just not willing to take things too far on account of our many years of friendship. As for you, I'll kill you even if you beg on your knees. Shueishing glared at Lin Yi, wanting to eat him alive. Chen Yuqian was the same. He killed Yu Feng, so there was no room for reconciliation between him and House Yu. Oh, that's exactly what I want to do. Lin Yi said, I'm going to use a martial skill. This time, I'm going to change to a different martial skill. Prepare to receive my attack. Huh, you want to change? You haven't even mastered one martial skill yet, and you want to change? Shueishing couldn't help but laugh at Lin Yi's words. This Lin Yi sure was funny and stubborn. He'd failed 3 times already, and he still wanted to try? And he wanted to change to a new martial skill? Did he think martial skills were that easy to learn? Shueishing may not have practiced martial skills before, but he knew how difficult it was. His big brother, Yu Huaxing, was an Earth class, but he still hadn't found a suitable martial skill, let alone Lin Yi. Yes, this is called oscillating fist. Lin Yi said, Come, receive my attack. I'll receive it right here. Let's see what you can do to me. Shueishing laughed, not putting Lin Yi in his eyes at all. It wasn't that he was arrogant, but he didn't believe that Lin Yi could use any martial skills at all. If he could, Lin Yi would have used a long time ago. Why would he wait until now? Normally speaking, who would use a half-baked martial skill to face an enemy first and then use the one they were familiar with? Wasn't that insane? As far as Shueishing was concerned, Lin Yi's so-called second martial skill was either a lie or it was even worse than the first one. It was a useless bomb. Lin Yi's chi bombs were usually used to win by surprise. If you were to face an enemy, and the enemy was a prepared opponent, then Lin Yi wouldn't be able to win by surprise. After all, Lin Yi's chi bombs were slow to compress, and they were troublesome to release. He had to aim at the enemy, and if the enemy dodged, then all his efforts would be wasted. It could be said that Lin Yi's previous chi bombs were all used by surprise when the enemy wasn't prepared. Shueixing, on the other hand, was different. Judging from Lin Yi's previous failures, Shueixing was a careful man. This was a bit like Boss Yu, and so when Lin Yi used his chi bombs, he had to use some tricks. If Shueixing dodged it, then it'd be troublesome. Shueixing and Lin Yi were both Earth-class early phase, and Shueixing was a bit stronger. Lin Yi didn't have much confidence in fighting him head-on, so he had to use some tricks. Self-created Earth-class technique, oscillating fist, Lin Yi said as he put his hands together, slowly pushing them towards Shueixing. Of course, Lin Yi didn't actually use the energy bomb this time because the time was too short and Lin Yi hadn't finished compressing it yet. Lin Yi also wanted to see if Shueixing was really going to stand there and take the attack, or if he was just saying it. The results proved that Shueixing really didn't dodge this time. He stood where he was, looking at Lin Yi mockingly. Self-created technique? Who do you think you are? You're an ancient heavenly class? He could even create his own martial skills. Aren't you embarrassed to say that? Don't tell me you just created on a whim, and then failed again because you're not familiar with it? I didn't create it today, I did it a few days ago. Lin Yi replied honestly. I did fail, but you said it's because I'm not familiar with it yet. I'll just try again. Shueixing didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Don't tell me you're trying to stall for time. You want to try again? Are you waiting for the effect of the pill to wear off before you attack me? Ugh. No. Lin Yi shook his head. I don't care if you are or not. I'm not afraid to tell you that the effect of my pill needs a month to wear off. If you have the guts, then stay here and use your technique for a month. Let's see if you can do it. Shueixing smiled coldly, as if he'd seen through Lin Yi's thoughts. I really don't. Lin Yi shook his head, and with the same hand gesture, he sent out the energy bomb he'd just condensed. Earth-class technique. Oscillating fist. Shueixing curled his lips, about to say something to mock Lin Yi, but the next moment he felt a force that could topple mountains and overturn seas, striking his chest. Chapter 17:10. Shueixing was startled and tried to dodge, but it was too late. Lin Yi's chi bomb hit his chest with a loud boom. Shueixing felt as if his chest had been hit by a landmine, and the huge force was pushing him away. Shueixing wanted to stay where he was after exchanging punches with Lin Yi. How embarrassing would that be if he were to fly away? But Shueixing's thinking was too simple. It wasn't as simple as losing face anymore. The explosion sent Shueixing flying away in an instant, and since he'd been standing where he was, trying to take the blast head-on, he was in an even worse state now. The explosion was even more severe than before. If he'd flown away with the initial blast, he'd only be injured at most, since Lin Yi's bomb didn't have a lot of chi in it. Lin Yi had only condensed a mid-sized bomb, and it would only be able to lightly injure Shueixing. Lin Yi could then take advantage of the situation, But because of Shueixing's resistance, he became the center of the explosion, and the huge force blew a hole in his chest. His sternum was blown to smithereens, and his organs were all a mess, turning into a pile of bloody meat. Shueixing didn't even have time to scream before he fell to the ground, killed by Lin Yi's bomb. There was a huge hole in his chest, and blood was still flowing out. It was a frightening sight. Holy church, this dramatic turn of events caused everyone present to be dumbfounded. They'd gone from having high hopes for Lin Yi at first, to not having high hopes for Lin Yi later on, and now Shueixing's tragic death. It all happened so quickly that they weren't used to it. Of course, these people were shocked, but Lin Yi was even more shocked. How did Shueixing die just like that? His true chi bomb had clearly blown him away at most. At most, it would have injured him slightly, but it would not have killed him. As long as Shueishing was injured, as long as Lin Yi dealt with him properly, he'd have a chance of killing Shueishing. But Shueishing didn't dodge. He just stood there, gritting his teeth, and got himself killed. He's dead. Lin Yi walked over and looked at Shueishing on the ground. He couldn't be more dead. There was a huge hole in Shueishing's chest, and his heart had been smashed to smithereens. It would be a miracle if he could survive like that. Lin Yi's words brought silence to the arena. No one dared to criticize Lin Yi right now. Even if Lin Yi's question was a little funny, no one thought it was funny. Shueishing had been killed by Lin Yi, and that was a fact. Who would dare piss Lin Yi off at a time like this? Jiang Wen had been paying attention to Lin Yi ever since he entered the arena, and it was only now that Lin Yi had killed Lin Yi that he let out a long sigh, knowing that his loss wasn't unjust. Lin Yi was an Earth-class early phase, and dealing with the fake Lin Yi was a piece of cake. Plus, he'd underestimated this opponent too much. At first, Jiang Wen thought that Lin Yi was just a random bodyguard. From his perspective, Lin Yi wasn't on the same level as the noble houses, and he only needed a few tricks to deal with him. But today, after seeing Lin Yi's power, Jiang Wen understood that if he wanted to deal with Lin Yi in the future, simple tricks wouldn't be enough. He'd need something even stronger. It's all over. Lin Yi sighed. It was a little regretful that he didn't manage to get the pangolin's whereabouts. But Lin Yi understood that even if Shueishing hadn't died, he wouldn't have remembered about the pangolin. In his eyes, the pangolin was just a small character. Why would he pay attention to something like that? So with Shueishing's death, Lin Yi could see it as revenge for the pangolin. Lin Yi walked quickly to the meeting table and sat on the main seat that Shueishing had been sitting on. He looked around at the heads of the houses. Asterisk, 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 these people were getting goosebumps from Lin Yi's stare. They all lowered their heads, not daring to meet Lin Yi's eyes. Only Elder Lu Zhenu nodded at Lin Yi in a friendly manner. The atmosphere in the meeting room became a little strange. Everyone was here to participate in the noble house meeting, but now that House Yi was dead, there was no point in holding the meeting anymore. However, no one dared to stand up and leave. Who knew if Lin Yi would suddenly attack them? He even dared to kill Shueishing. What was there left to do? 4 big houses, 5 small houses. Only 8 left now. Lin Yi looked at the people at the table, his eyes finally landing on Dr. Kang's face. Dr. Kang had long since lost his composure. He felt like he was sitting on a bed of needles. He and Lin Yi could be considered old enemies. He'd started a feud with Lin Yi during the birthday banquet, and he didn't doubt that Lin Yi would kill him on the spot. Dr. Kang, why are you still sitting here? Scram, Lin Yi said faintly as he looked at Dr. Kang. I'll leave now. Dr. Kang stood up as if he'd just been pardoned. He brought Kang Gui phone with him, ready to leave. He didn't even think about leveling up to a noble house anymore. Being able to keep his life was already a blessing. Wait, take your Shao family with you. You can all scram. Lin Yi pointed at the 2 Shao family brothers. Shao Ji and Shao Ben were Lin Yi's old enemies. But even the hidden house, Pai didn't dare cause trouble for Lin Yi. What right did they have to question Lin Yi's words? The 2 of them looked at each other and stood up dejectedly. Jiang Wen, I don't need to call names, right? Lin Yi looked at Jiang Wen and in Ming Yue's direction. Lin Yi, we've always had a pretty good relationship. Did you forget that you were the one who gave me ideas to pursue Ming Yao? Jiang Wen asked, putting on a fake smile. From today onwards, the 4 big houses and 5 small houses will become history. Lin Yi didn't answer Jiang Wen's question. The old noble house structure no longer exists. I need to reorganize it, but Jiang Wen, I don't want to bring you along. It's fine. Housen isn't good at practicing. When we were a noble house, we were just there to make up the numbers. Since Lin Yi says so, then we'll leave. Jiang Wen understood that a wise man knew better than to fight when the odds were against him. He stood up and prepared to leave. To be honest, Jiang Wen didn't really care about being a noble house. What Housen was doing was helping the Firewolves, so it didn't matter if they were a noble house or not. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.